Welcome. My name is Michael Clark, and I'm the person behind this channel. Before we enter tonight's meditation, I want to gently invite you to subscribe. It helps me continue bringing together more sleep-focused Neville Goddard teachings, nighttime reflections, and calming sessions for those who listen before rest. Now, settle in, let your body relax, and allow the outside world to grow quiet. Let's begin.
Tonight, as you lie down in the quiet, as the room grows still and the outer world begins to fade, I want you to notice something that most men never notice. There is a moment every night when reality loses its grip. The day has made its claims upon you. It has shown you faces, numbers, letters, delays, words, silences, closed doors, and appearances. It has spoken to you through the eyes and ears, through the body and the senses, and it has tried to convince you that what you saw was final. But now the day is ending. The voices of circumstances are growing weaker. The body is letting go. The mind is becoming softer. And you are standing at the edge of a deeper world. You may be lying in darkness now, perhaps with your eyes closed, perhaps listening while the body loosens its hold upon the day. The breath becomes quieter. The weight of the body begins to sink. The thoughts that seemed so urgent only hours ago begin to lose their sharpness. The world outside the room continues. Yes, but it no longer commands you as it did in the light of day. In this hour, something more ancient than reason, more powerful than circumstance, begins to awaken within you, and that something is your own wonderful human imagination. Tonight you are not here to fight reality. You are here to stop obeying it. That may sound strange at first, because from the time you were a child, you were taught to believe what you see. You were taught to look upon the outer world and call it truth. If the eyes saw lack, you called yourself poor. If the ears heard rejection, you called yourself unwanted. If the body felt discomfort, you called yourself bound. If a door closed, you called it the end. If a number appeared upon a page, you called it proof. You were trained to bow before appearances as though they were gods, and because you bowed, you became their servant. But I tell you, they are shadows, they are echoes, they are effects. They are the visible remains of states once occupied in consciousness. What your senses call reality is only yesterday's imagination made visible. It is not cause, it is not creator, it is not master. It is the reflection of what has already been accepted within. And this is the great secret. The reflection cannot go first. A mirror cannot smile before the face smiles. An echo cannot speak. A shadow cannot move before the body moves. Yet man spends his life begging the mirror to change, pleading with the echo to say another word, wrestling with shadows on the wall, not knowing that the power is not in the reflection, but in the one who stands before it. You have believed that reality was commanding you, but reality was only repeating you. You have believed that circumstances were causing your state, but your state was causing your circumstances. Tonight, you will learn to stop worshipping appearances. This does not mean you must deny the outer world in a foolish or careless way. It does not mean that you pretend your senses report nothing. You may see what is before you. You may know what men call facts. You may live in the world of Caesar and attend to its ordinary demands, but you must not give that world your throne. You must not let what is seen dictate what is true within you. You must not let the old reflection decide the new creation. To ignore reality in the true sense is not to close your eyes to the shadow. It is to stop calling the shadow cause. It is to look upon the visible world and say, this is an effect, this is an echo, this is old news, this is consciousness hardened into form, but it is not the limit of what I am now choosing. That is wisdom, that is faith, that is the beginning of power. The world has taught you. I teach you to believe what you assume. The world has taught you to wait until reality changes before you feel different. I teach you to feel different, and reality must change. The world has taught you to react to facts. I teach you to create from imagination. The world has taught you that circumstances are final. I teach you that circumstances are shadows of consciousness, and consciousness can be changed. You are not here tonight to wrestle with what the senses have shown you. You are here to give your loyalty to the unseen. For the unseen is not empty. The unseen is the birthplace of all that will become visible. Every visible thing was first invisible. Every fact was first a state. Every circumstance was first an assumption. Every world begins in imagination. If your life has seemed fixed, it is because you have repeatedly accepted the same state as true. If your reality has seemed stubborn, it is because the inner story has been worn like a garment for so long that it felt natural. If you have seen the same patterns return, it is not because the outer world has power over you, but because the same inner identity has been carried into each new day, and most importantly, into each night. For sleep is not merely rest. Sleep is not escape. Sleep is the hour when the outer world loses its voice. Sleep is the quiet threshold where the senses grow dim and the subconscious becomes receptive. Sleep is the holy interval in which the last feeling of the night sinks deeply into the creative depths of your being. Men fall asleep carelessly, not knowing that they are planting. They carry worry to bed and call it thinking. They carry fear to bed and call it being realistic. They carry old conversations, old disappointments, old numbers, old wounds, and they wonder why tomorrow resembles yesterday. But you are not to sleep that way tonight. Tonight, you are to enter the night as one who understands. You are to stop carrying the outer world as though it were the final word. You are to stop bringing the evidence of the senses into the deep as your master. You are to choose deliberately and inwardly the reality in which you will sleep. And the reality in which you sleep is the reality that begins to form. This is not a battle, it is a turning away from the shadow and toward the light, a turning away from reaction and toward assumption, a turning away from the report of the senses and toward the creative act of imagination. You do not have to force the world to change tonight. You do not have to push circumstances with your hands. You do not have to solve every outer problem before you rest. You have only to go to the cause, and the cause is consciousness. So let the body begin to loosen. Let the day fall away from you. Let the old voices become distant. The voice that says, look at what has happened. The voice that says, this is impossible. The voice that says, nothing has changed. The voice that says, you must wait. Let those voices grow faint, because they are only the voices of yesterday's reflection. They do not know what is now being. Tonight, another voice must be heard. The quiet voice of I am. The voice that does not beg. The voice that does not tremble before appearances. The voice that chooses its state and rests in it. That voice is nearer than breathing. It is the center of your being. Before you say, I am poor. Before you say, I am rejected. Before you say, I am trapped. Before you say, I am afraid. There is only I am. Pure. And whatever you attach to that I am, you begin to call into expression. So tonight, be careful what you carry into sleep. Do not carry the old name. Do not carry the old identity. Do not carry the old evidence as though it were eternal. You are not the old reflection. You are the one who can choose a new face before the mirror. You are not the echo, you are the voice. You are not the shadow, you are the light and the form casting. You are the imaginal being from which reality takes shape. The outer world may have told you one story today, but tonight you may choose another. The senses may have reported lack, but you may sleep in the state of supply. The senses may have reported delay, but you may sleep in the state of fulfillment. The senses may have reported silence, but you may sleep in the state of being chosen. The senses may have reported a closed door, but you may sleep in the state of life open. The senses may have reported fear, but you may sleep in the state of peace. And if you do this, you are not lying to yourself. You are no longer lying to yourself. For the greatest lie is to say that the shadow is cause. The greatest lie is to say that what is seen is final. The greatest lie is to say that imagination is powerless. No, imagination is the only creative reality, and the world of the senses is its projection. Tonight, you are not here. You are here to stop obeying it. You are here to learn that what appears before you is not the master of what must be. You are here to enter the unseen and accept a new state. You are here to sleep in the reality interior until the reality exterior obeys. You are here to give your loyalty not to the old evidence, but to the fulfilled assumption. Let that sentence settle deeply within you. I give my loyalty to the unseen. For every the letter was once unseen, the healing was once unseen, the reconciliation was once unseen, the opportunity was once unseen, the freedom was once unseen. The world calls a thing real only after it appears, but the awakened one knows it is real when it is accepted in imagination. The outer appearance is only the final stage. Creation begins before sight confirms it. This is why the night is sacred. In the night you can stop renewing the old state. You can let the body sleep while the subconscious receives the seed of a new reality. You can enter the end quietly. You can feel it as true. You can rest in it. And while you sleep, the law works in silence. Do not demand to know how. The how is not your work tonight. Do not demand signs. Signs belong to the outer world, and the outer world follows. Do not ask whether the old reality has disappeared yet. Instead, turn inward and ask only this: what would I feel if my desire were already fulfilled? Then dare to feel it. What would I feel if all were well? What would I feel if the door had opened? What would I feel if I were already chosen? What would I feel if I were already free? What would I feel if the answer were yes? What would I feel if the life I desire were already mine? Find that feeling, even if at first it is small. A small feeling of peace is a seed. A small feeling of being held, guided, supplied, loved, and free is a seed. Do not despise the seed because it is small. Seeds are meant to grow in darkness, and sleep is the darkness where the seed is hidden from the arguments of the day. Now breathe gently. Let the outer world become less important for a while. It has spoken all day, but it is not the only voice. It has shown you effects, but it has not shown. It has shown you the harvest of former states, but it cannot show you what is being planted now. Tonight, you plant differently. Tonight, you choose differently. Tonight, you sleep differently. You are not escaping reality. You are creating reality. You are not denying the world. You are withdrawing creative authority from the world. You are not pretending. You are assuming. You are not waiting. You are entering. You are not reacting. You are becoming. And as you become inwardly, the outer must follow. This is the law. The senses may continue to show you the old picture for a time, but do not be frightened by this. The old picture is only an echo fading. It cannot remain if the voice has changed. The old reflection is only the mirror still holding the face you once wore. It cannot remain if you persist in the new face. The old shadow is only the result of an old posture. So tonight, let the posture change. Let the heart no longer bow. Let the mind no longer tremble. Let the body no longer hold the old reality as master. Let the state of the wish fulfilled become your resting place. You need not shout it. You need not force it. You need only accept it enough to sleep in it. Sleep is the hour when the outer world loses its voice. And in that holy quiet, imagination speaks. It speaks not in noise. It speaks as quiet certainty. It speaks as the sense that all is already well. It speaks as the inward knowledge that what you desire is not far, because in imagination it is present now. And if it is present in imagination, it has found its cause. Tonight you will begin there, not with the evidence, not with the problem, not with the world, but with imagination. Let the world fall back. Let the room become still. Let the body soften. Let the senses rest. Let the unseen become your dwelling. Let the fulfilled state become more real than the day you have left behind. For what your senses call reality is only yesterday's imagination made visible. And what you accept tonight in imagination is tomorrow's reality beginning its journey into form. Tonight, you are not here to fight reality. You are here to stop obeying it. Tonight, you will learn to give your loyalty to the unseen. And as you sleep in the unseen fulfilled, the seen world must, in its appointed way, rearrange itself around the state you have dared to accept as true. From the beginning of your life, you have been taught to obey 5 masters. They were not introduced to you as masters, and yet they ruled you. They were not placed before you as tyrants, and yet they commanded your moods, your fears, your expectations, and your sense of what was possible. I speak of the 5 senses: what the eyes see, what the ears hear, what the hands touch, what the body feels, and what the outer world reports. These 5 have stood like judges over the life of man. The eye says, "Look, this is so." The ear says, "Listen, this is final." The hand says, "Touch it, and you will know it is real." The body says, "Feel this discomfort, this pressure, this heaviness, and call it truth." The outer world gathers its evidence and says, "Here are the facts. Bow before them." And because man has been trained to believe that the senses reveal reality, he bows. He accepts the report. He builds his inner life around what has already appeared. But I tell you tonight, the senses are reporters, not creators. They tell you what has hardened, not what must remain. They show you the harvest, not the seed. They show you the visible result of states once occupied, not the invisible cause that is now available within you. They report the shadow, but they cannot reveal the light that casts it. They report yesterday, but they cannot tell you what is being born tonight in imagination. The eye may show you an empty account and say, this is your supply. But the eye does not know supply, it only sees numbers. It cannot see the state that created those numbers, and it cannot see the new state that can change them. The eye may show you a closed door and say, this is the end, but the eye does not know endings. It only sees a door in one moment of time. It cannot see the bridge of incidents forming beyond the visible scene. The eye may show you another person turned away, a letter unanswered, an opportunity delayed, and it may whisper, this is rejection. But it cannot see the inner state that calls forth acceptance or distance. The ear may hear silence and call it abandonment. It may hear a no and call it final. It may hear harsh words and call them truth. But the ear, too, is only a reporter. It hears sounds in the world of effects. It does not hear the deeper decree of consciousness unless you train yourself to listen within. One word spoken by another can disturb a man for days, but often the ear has heard only an echo of an old assumption. It has heard the outer world repeating a state that may be left tonight. The hands may touch a condition and say, this is real. They may touch the paper, the wall, the empty chair, the bed, the body, the door, the evidence, and insist that what is touched is ultimate. But touch only confirms form. It does not reveal cause. It tells you what has become dense enough to be handled. It does not tell you what new form imagination is now preparing to bring forth. The hand can touch the fruit, but it cannot touch the seed once hidden in the soil. Yet the seed is where the fruit began. The body may feel strain, fatigue, tension, pain, fear, heaviness, and because the sensation is intimate, man calls it truth. He says, I feel afraid, therefore I am in danger. I feel poor, therefore I am poor. I feel trapped, therefore I am without a way. But the body is often carrying the memory of an old state. It is repeating a habit of consciousness. It is not always revealing destiny. It may be reporting yesterday's belief still moving through the nerves. Therefore, do not let the body's old feeling become your final authority. Feelings are creative when you accept them, but old feelings can be replaced by chosen feelings. That is the secret. And the outer world, with all its voices, all its movement, all its appearances, gathers itself before you like a great witness and says, look at me, I am reality. It shows empty accounts, closed doors, silence from others, symptoms, delays, rejection, circumstances that seem final. And it says, here is the verdict. But I tell you, the outer world is only the visible witness of consciousness. It is not the judge. It is the thing judged, the thing formed, the thing projected. It is the image on the screen, not the projector. To obey the senses is to live as a servant of yesterday. That is a hard saying, only because man has been trained to worship the visible. He thinks that to obey the senses is wisdom. He calls it being realistic. He says, I must accept what is before me. But I say, accept it only as an effect, not as cause. Accept it only as the harvest of a former state, not as the seed of your future. The sleeping man sees the harvest and replants it by believing it is final. The awakened man sees the harvest and says, this came from a state, I will now choose another state. This is the difference between bondage and freedom. If you look at an empty account and enter the state of lack, you have obeyed the senses. You have taken the report and made it a command. The senses said, empty, and you answered, I am poor. That answer is the seed. The report alone did not create your future. Your acceptance of the report as identity did. But if you look at the same account and inwardly refuse to become lack, if you say, this is old evidence, I am supplied, I am the one for whom life provides, then you have broken the tyranny of the senses. You have seen the shadow without worshipping it. If you hear silence from another and enter the state of abandonment, you have obeyed the senses. The ear reported silence, and you answered, I am not chosen. That answer becomes creative. But if you hear silence and do not let it define you, if you remain inwardly in the state of being loved, chosen, remembered, and valued, then the silence loses its crown. It becomes only a passing sound, or rather the absence of sound. If the body feels discomfort and you enter fear, if you build an identity around the sensation, if you say, this is who I am, you have obeyed the body as master. But if you treat the sensation as an appearance and turn inward to the state of wholeness, if you feel even gently the relief of being well, safe, restored, then you are not denying the body. You are going to the cause behind the body. You are choosing the state that the body must eventually. The senses show you what has become, not what must be. This must be understood deeply. They are useful in the world of Caesar. You use your eyes to cross the road, your ears to hear a voice, your hands to work, your body to move through the world. I am not telling you to despise the senses, I am telling you to dethrone them. Use them as servants. Do not accept them as masters. Let them report, but do not let them create. Let them show what is passing, but do not let them decide what is eternal within you. The senses belong to the world of effects. Imagination belongs to the world of cause. The eyes can show you the shadow, but they cannot show you the source. The source is within. The source is consciousness. The source is your own wonderful human imagination. When you assume a state and feel it real, you are dealing with cause. When you react to appearances and call them final, you are dealing only with effect. And because most men live only among effects, they spend their lives rearranging shadows. They change a circumstance, but carry the old state. They change a location, but carry the old identity. They change a relationship, but carry the old expectation. They change the outer garment, but not the inner man. Then they wonder why the pattern returns. It returns. A closed door was believed, a delay was believed, a rejection was believed, a symptom was believed, a number was believed, and what was believed became a state, and what became a state became the world. This is why you must begin tonight to question the authority of appearances, not with panic, not with anger, but with calm understanding. When the senses speak, you may say, I hear your report, but you are not creator, you are showing. This is a great freedom. The senses may continue to report what they have always reported for a little while. Let them. They are only messengers from yesterday. Do not strike the messenger, and do not worship him. Let the report come, and then turn inward. Ask yourself, what do I choose to assume now? That question returns power to its proper place. The eye reports, but I choose. The ear reports, but I choose. The body reports. I am not commanded by appearances. I am the one who gives meaning. I am the one who assumes. I am the one who enters a state. And the state I enter becomes the reality I meet. You see, man does not suffer merely because something appears. He suffers because he accepts the appearance as identity. He does not merely see lack. He says, I am lacking. He does not merely see delay. He says, I am waiting. He does not merely see an obstacle. He says, I am blocked. This joining of I am to the report of the senses is the creative act done unconsciously. The senses give a report, and man gives it the name of God, I am. Then the report becomes his world. But tonight you are learning to stop doing this. You are learning to withdraw the sacred name from old appearances. You are learning not to say, I am poor, because the eye saw a number. You are learning not to say, I am unwanted, because the ear heard silence. You are learning not to say, I am trapped, because the hand touched a closed door. You are learning not to say, I am afraid, because the body remembered fear. You are learning to say something deeper, something chosen, something creative. I am supplied. I am chosen. I am free. I am safe. I am guided. I am the one whose imagination. It is the reclaiming of the throne. It is the refusal to let the senses clothe your I am in old garments. It is the beginning of conscious creation. Now, as you listen and the body grows more relaxed, understand why this hour is so valuable. In the day, the senses are loud. They call constantly for attention. The eye sees, the ear hears, the body reacts, the world demands. But in the night, their rule weakens. The senses lose their sharp command, and in that softening, you may turn to imagination more easily. You may choose the unseen. You may give the subconscious a new report, not the report of the senses, but the report of the wish fulfilled. What would the senses show if your desire were already fulfilled? What would you hear? What would you touch? What would your body feel? What would the world report then? Take that inwardly. Do not wait for the outer senses to give it to yourself in imagination. Hear the words now. Feel the relief now. Touch the symbol of completion now. Let the inner senses become servants of your chosen reality. If you desire supply, hear someone say, everything is taken care of. Feel the paper that confirms it. Feel the ease in the body. If you desire love, hear the tender voice. Feel the hand in yours. Feel the safety of being chosen. If you desire, hear yourself say, I am free. If you desire peace, feel the stillness of a settled life. Let the senses of imagination report the end before the senses of the world can. This is how you train yourself away from tyranny. You stop waiting for the outer senses to permit you to feel fulfilled. You enter the fulfilled feeling first. You become inwardly loyal to the reality you choose. And then the outer senses, in time, must report. The senses are reporters, not creators. They tell you what has hardened, not what must remain. The eyes can show you the shadow, but they cannot show you the source. To obey the senses is to live as a servant of yesterday. Let these words sink into you, not as argument, but as release. You do not have to be imprisoned by what you saw today. You do not have to sleep under the rule of a report. You do not have to let the last image of the night be the old evidence. You may close the outer eyes and open the inner eye. You may let the outer ear become quiet and hear the word of fulfillment within. You may let the body relax from its old reactions and feel the new state. You may let the world of Caesar recede and enter the world of imagination, where all creation begins. This is the night you stop giving the senses their old authority. You do not hate them, you do not fight them, you simply put them in their right. They report the visible, but you in imagination choose the invisible cause. You in consciousness choose the state. You in the silence before sleep choose what shall be planted. And if the senses whisper one last time, "But look, this is reality," answer gently, "No, this is only what has appeared. My imagination is reality, my assumption is cause, my feeling is seed, and the world will follow." Then rest. Let the outer evidence lose its throne. Let the unseen become more real. Let imagination speak. For tonight, you are no longer a servant of yesterday. You are the operant power, turning inward to the only cause, choosing the state that the senses must one day report as fact. Now that you have begun to see the senses for what they are, reporters and not creators, you are ready to understand what reality truly is. For as long as you think, you will wake each morning and look outward to discover who you are. You will look at the letter, the number, the body, the face, the silence, the delay, and you will ask them, "What am I allowed to believe today?" And because you ask the shadow for permission, the shadow becomes your master. But I tell you, reality is not your master, it is your reflection. The outer world is not independent cause. It does not begin anything. It does not originate and it does not decide what you must be. It is consciousness objectified. It is the invisible state made visible. It is the assumption clothed in form. It is the feeling accepted within and later seen without. What men call reality is consciousness hardened into appearance. This is why the world seems so convincing. It has hardened, it has taken shape. It can be seen, touched, measured, discussed, remembered, feared, and defended. But do not let its solidity deceive you. A thing may be solid and still be effect. A stone may be hard, but it did not create itself. A shadow may appear dark, but it does not produce the light. A harvest may fill the field, but it is still the result of seed. So when you look upon your world and call it reality, know what you are truly seeing. You are seeing the harvest of consciousness. The sleeping man reacts to this harvest. The awakened man plants anew. The sleeping man sees lack and becomes anxious. He sees rejection and becomes wounded. He sees delay and becomes impatient. He sees difficulty and becomes defeated. He allows the outer world to dictate the inner state, and by doing so, he plants again the very state he wishes. He says, "I am only reacting to what is real." But I say he is creating more of what he calls real by accepting it as cause. The awakened man sees the same scene differently. He may see lack, but he does not enter lack. He may hear rejection, but he does not become rejected. He may meet delay, but he does not live as one delayed. He may stand before a closed door, but he does not assume that life is closed. He knows that what he sees is effect. He knows that the visible world is the shadow of consciousness. And because he knows this, he turns within and changes cause. This is the first great reversal. The world believes you must change facts in order to change consciousness. I tell you, change consciousness and facts must change. The world believes circumstances produce your state. I tell you, your state produces circumstances. The world believes the visible is master and the invisible is fantasy. I tell you, the invisible is cause and the visible is only its servant. If this is understood, you cease to be a victim of what appears. Consider the mirror. You stand before it and see your reflection. If the reflection seems sad, you do not plead with the glass. You do not say, "Please, mirror, smile first, and then I will smile." You do not blame the mirror for your expression. You do not strike it in anger. You do the only sensible thing. You change the face before the mirror, and the reflection follows. It must follow, because it has no power to do otherwise. The mirror does not command the face, so it is with your world. The world is a mirror of the state you occupy. If you stand before life in the state of being unwanted, the mirror reflects situations that seem to prove you are unwanted. If you stand before life in the state of struggle, the mirror reflects conditions that seem to require struggle. If you stand before life in the state of failure, the mirror reflects evidence that failure is natural. But if you change the face, if you assume the state of being chosen, supplied, successful, loved, guided, and free, then the mirror must change its reflection. It may not always change at the exact instant the anxious mind demands. The outer world, being dense, may appear to lag. But lag is not denial. It is only the movement of effect catching up to cause. The mirror persists in the new face, and the old reflection cannot remain. Now consider the echo. A man stands in a valley and calls out. A moment later, the valley answers. But the valley does not speak first. The echo does not invent the word. It only returns the voice. If the man hears an unpleasant echo, he does not curse the mountains. He changes the call. Yet man hears the echoes of his inner life and calls them fate. He hears others speak words that match. He sees events repeat the story he has told himself. He meets circumstances that answer his assumptions, and then he says, "Life is against me." No, life is echoing. The echo does not speak first. Your inner speech, your habitual feeling, your deep assumption of self, these are the voice. The outer world answers. If inwardly you have been saying, "I am always overlooked," life echoes being overlooked. If inwardly you have been saying, "Nothing ever works out for me," life echoes disorder and delay. If inwardly you have been saying, "I am alone," life echoes distance. If inwardly you have been saying, "I must struggle," life echoes burdens. But the same law works in freedom. If inwardly you begin to say, with feeling, "I am chosen," life must echo being chosen. If you say, "All things work together for me," life must echo arrangement. If you say, "I am held," life must echo support. If you say, "I am already supplied," life must echo provision. Do not ask the echo to change while you continue speaking the old word within. Change the inner voice. The echo will follow. Now consider the shadow. A shadow can appear long and dark upon a wall. It may frighten a child because he does not understand it. He thinks the shadow is a thing in itself, but the wise man knows that the shadow is dependent. It does not move by its own intelligence. It does not create the form. It does not generate the light. It follows. If you wish to change the shadow, you change what casts it. The shadow does not create the light. Your circumstances are shadows. Your facts are shadows. The visible world is the shadow cast by consciousness. It may appear large. It may appear heavy. It may appear undeniable. But it has no independent life. Its substance is borrowed from the state that produced. Therefore, to spend your life fighting shadows is exhaustion. To change the state that casts them is wisdom. This is why I say that facts are shadows. They are not lies in the sense that they do not appear. They appear. They can be witnessed. But they are not ultimate truth. They are not cause. They are forms of something deeper. If you call them final, you have misunderstood them. If you react to them as masters, you keep them alive. If you see them as shadows, you are free to change the light within. A man may say, "But my poverty is a fact." I answer, yes, perhaps it is a visible fact, but it is not cause. It is a shadow of a state. If he continues to identify with that fact, saying, "I am poor, I am trapped, I am always behind," then he gives the shadow fresh life. But if he turns inward and assumes the state of supply, not with empty words, but with the feeling of being already provided for, then the cause changes. And when cause changes, effect must follow. A woman may say, "But the silence is a fact." I answer, perhaps silence is presently visible, but silence is not cause, it is an appearance. If she joins that silence to the name I am, and says, "I am abandoned," she plants the state of abandonment. I am loved, I am remembered, I am secure, and feels it until it becomes natural. Then the shadow must change. The outer world must find a way to echo the new state. A man may say, "But the door is closed." I answer, perhaps one door appears closed, but a closed door is not cause. It is a shadow in one moment of time. If he assumes life is closed to me, he multiplies closed doors. But if he assumes life opens for me, I am guided. The way is made, then life must produce the bridge. The world only repeats the state you occupy. This is why your state matters more than your circumstances. A circumstance may appear for a time, but your state determines what it becomes, what follows it, what it means, and whether it continues. Two men may meet the same outer fact and go in entirely different directions because they occupy different states. One sees delay and says it is over. Another sees delay and says the bridge is forming. One sees silence and says, I am rejected. Another sees silence and says, I am secure. Nothing can disturb what I am. One sees lack and says, I am poor. Another sees lack and says, this is old news. I am supplied. The outer fact may be similar, but the state gives it its destiny. This is the true meaning of creation. You are not creating by forcing matter with your hands. You are creating by occupying a state in consciousness. That state is the seed. The world is the harvest. The seed may be hidden, but it determines the fruit. The harvest may be visible, but it is already the result. To change the harvest, plant a new seed. The sleeping man tries to change effects. He pushes the world, he argues with people, he fights the mirror, he chases signs, he pleads with circumstances. He uses all his strength upon the shadow. And because he never changes the state, the old pattern returns. Even when he moves one piece of the outer world, another piece appears carrying the same inner story. He changes the scene, but not the self. Therefore the drama repeats. The awakened man changes cause. He goes to consciousness. He asks, what am I assuming? What am I conscious of being? What state am I living from? Then he changes that. He does not deny that the world exists. He simply refuses to mistake. He works where creation begins. He occupies the fulfilled state. He feels the wish fulfilled. He gives his loyalty to the unseen. Then the seen must follow. This is not passivity. It is the highest action. To change consciousness is to act upon the root. All other action is branch and leaf. When the root changes, the tree changes. When the seed changes, the harvest changes. When the projector changes, the screen changes. Consider the screen. You may sit in a darkened room and watch a picture projected upon a screen. The picture may show storms, conflict, poverty, or joy. If you do not understand the projector, you may rush toward the screen and attempt to alter the picture with your hands. But the image is not coming from the screen. The screen is only receiving and displaying what is projected upon it. To change the picture, you must change what is in the projector. The outer world is the screen. Consciousness is the projector. If you do not like the picture, do not spend your life clawing at the screen. Turn within. Change the image accepted in consciousness. Change the state. Change the assumption. Then the screen must display another picture. This is why imagination is the true workshop of reality. Not idle imagination, not wandering fantasy, but imagination accepted as real. When you enter the fulfilled state inwardly and feel it as true, you have changed the projection. The outer screen must eventually show what has been impressed within. It cannot do otherwise. The screen has no independent creativity, and this brings us again to sleep. For sleep is the hour when the screen grows dim and the projector may be changed. In the waking day, the picture appears vivid. The senses insist, the facts seem loud. But as sleep approaches, the senses soften, the eyes close, the ear turns inward, the body becomes still, the mind loses its sharp. The outer screen fades, and the inner image can be impressed more deeply. That is why the state before sleep is so sacred. You are closest then to the creative depth. If you fall asleep in reaction to the old picture, you continue projecting the old picture. If you fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you begin projecting another. The night receives your state. The subconscious takes the feeling as instruction, and what is received in the depths will, in time, appear upon the screen of life. So do not sleep as a servant of the screen. Sleep as the one who chooses what shall be projected. Do not sleep as one hypnotized by the mirror. Sleep as one who has changed the face. Do not sleep as one frightened by the echo. Sleep as one who has spoken a new inner word. Do not sleep as one wrestling with shadows. Sleep as one who has returned to the light. Do not sleep mourning the harvest. Sleep planting the seed. Now, if tonight you carry a fact that seems heavy, do not curse it. Understand it. Say inwardly, this is effect. If you carry a circumstance that seems final, say, this is shadow. If you carry a silence that has wounded you, say, this is echo. If you carry an old pattern, say, this is harvest. Then ask, what is the cause I now choose? And choose it. Choose being supplied. Choose being loved. Choose being healed. Choose being successful. Choose being safe. Choose being the one for whom life opens. Choose not as wishful thinking, but as assumption. Wear it inwardly. Feel it. Sleep in it. Let it become more real to you than the old report. At first, the outer world may still appear unchanged. Do not be alarmed. If you plant a seed tonight, you do not dig it up in the morning and declare the soil barren. You know the invisible. When the state is changed, the movement begins in the unseen. The world may not announce it at once, but the law is already at work. The harvest follows the seed. The shadow follows the light. The echo follows the voice. The mirror follows the face. The screen follows the projector. Reality follows consciousness. Therefore, reality is not your master. It is your reflection. Let this truth comfort you, but let it also awaken you. For if reality is your reflection, then there is no one to blame and no one to wait for. You need not wait for the world to become kind before you assume kindness. You need not wait for money before you assume supply. You need not wait for love before you assume being loved. You need not wait for the door before you assume freedom. You begin within, because within is cause. The sleeping man says, I will believe when I see. The awakened man says, I will see because I believe. The sleeping man says, I will feel free when the world releases me. The awakened man says, I feel free and the world must rearrange. The sleeping man says, reality tells me what is possible. The awakened man says, my assumption determines what reality will become. This is the movement from victim to operant power. You are not here to be pushed by facts. You are here to give form to consciousness. You are not here to be named by appearances. You are here to name yourself in imagination. You are not here to wait for the old world to grant permission. You are here to occupy the new state and let the world follow. So as the night deepens, loosen your allegiance to the visible. Let the facts be facts only, as effects. Let them lose their tyranny. Let the mirror be mirror. Let the echo be echo. Let the shadow be shadow. Let the screen be screen. Let the harvest be harvest. None of these are cause. None of these are final. The cause is consciousness. The creative power is imagination. The name of power in you is I am. And what you now join to I am, with feeling, becomes the state from which your world must take shape. So choose carefully, choose gently, choose inwardly. Say not, I am bound, because the shadow looked dark. Say, I am free. Say not, I am rejected, because the echo was silent. Say, I am chosen. Say not, I am poor, because the mirror reflected lack. Say, I am supplied. Say not, I am afraid, because the old harvest trembled. Say, I am safe, I am held, I am guided. Then let the words sink below words. Let them become feeling. Let the feeling become state. Let the state become sleep. And let sleep carry the state into the depths where reality is made. For what you call reality is consciousness hardened into form. And tonight in the quiet, you may choose what shall begin to harden next. Now I must make something very clear, because many misunderstand this teaching at precisely this point. When I tell you to ignore reality, I am not asking you to become foolish. I am not asking you to pretend that circumstances do not appear. I am not asking you to walk through the world with closed eyes, refusing common sense, denying what stands before you in the visible order of life. That is not wisdom. That is not faith. That is confusion. To ignore reality is not to deny the shadow. It is to stop worshipping it. There is a great difference between seeing an appearance and serving it. You may see what the senses report. You may read the letter. You may hear the word. You may observe the condition. You may attend to the ordinary duties of life. But inwardly you do not bow. Inwardly you do not call the appearance final. Inwardly you do not let the old fact tell you who you are. You see it, but you do not enthrone it. You recognize it as effect, as echo, as harvest, as finished assumption, and then you turn back to cause. This is the true meaning of ignoring reality. It is not blindness. It is clear seeing. The blind man is the one who believes the visible is cause. The blind man is the one who looks at the shadow and says, this is the source. The blind man is the one who hears an echo and says, the echo has spoken first. The blind man is the one who sees the mirror and begs the reflection to change while leaving the face untouched. That is blindness. But the awakened man sees the same appearance and says, this is not cause. This is what has hardened. This is what has appeared. But what is seen is temporary, and what is assumed is creative. You can see the appearance without serving it. This is the balance that must be learned. If a bill appears, you may see it. You may handle it wisely. You may do what is appropriate in the world of Caesar, but you do not call it final. You do not let it decide your identity. You do not say, I am poor, I am trapped, I am at the mercy of this paper. You look upon it and say inwardly, this is an effect, this is old evidence. I am supplied, I am guided, the state has changed. Then you act from that state, not from panic. If you hear the word no, you may hear it. You do not pretend the sound was no. You do not make it the final decree of life. You do not say, I am rejected, I am denied, I am without a way. You hear the word and you remember. An outer no is not God. It is not cause. It is an appearance in a sequence, an echo of some state, a shadow in time. You remain faithful to the unseen assumption. You say inwardly, the end is fulfilled, life opens, the bridge forms, I am chosen, I am received, and you may notice that the outer world has not yet shown what you desire, but you do not call delay destiny. You do not say it is not happening. You do not say the law has failed. You do not say I must return to fear. Delay is often only the interval in which the bridge of incidence is forming. The seed is beneath the soil. The root is moving before the stalk appears. You do not dig it up because the surface is quiet. You remain faithful. You let the unseen do its work. This is why facts are not final. Facts are finished assumptions. Let that sink deeply into you. A fact is an assumption that has already taken form. It may be seen, but it is not the source. It may be measurable, but it is not eternal. It may be discussed by others, but it is not ultimate. It is the end of a former creative act, not the beginning of a new one, unless you accept it again. When you react to a fact as final, you turn it into seed once more. You take the finished assumption and replant it through feeling. But when you see a fact as old harvest, you are free to plant differently. The problem is not that men see facts. The problem is that they worship facts. They see lack and worship it with fear. They see delay and worship it with impatience. They see rejection and worship it with pain. They see symptoms and worship them with terror. They see old circumstances and worship them by calling them inevitable. Their attention, their emotion, their inner speech, and their nighttime imagination all bend before the appearance. And whatever you worship in consciousness, you give creative life. So I tell you, withdraw worship from appearances. You may see the bill, but do not worship it. You may hear the no, but do not worship it. You may notice the delay, but do not worship it. You may remember the past, but do not worship it. You may feel an old emotion, but do not worship it. To worship an appearance is to grant it creative authority. To ignore reality rightly is to remove that authority and give it back to imagination. It is to say, you may appear, but you do not create. You may stand before me, but you do not define me. You may be visible, but you are not my God. My imagination is the creative reality. My assumption is cause. My state is the seed. Now some will say, but Neville, is this not delusion? Am I not deceiving myself by assuming what I do not yet see? And I answer, no. You have deceived yourself by believing that what you see is cause. You have deceived yourself by giving the outer world power it does not possess. You have deceived yourself by taking yesterday's harvest and calling it tomorrow's law. To assume the wish fulfilled is not delusion. It is creation at the level of cause. All creation begins unseen. The tree is unseen in the seed. The building is unseen in the mind before it is raised in stone. The journey is unseen before the first step. The reconciliation is unseen before the letter arrives. The healing is unseen before the body reports it. The fulfilled desire is unseen before the world reflects it. If you insist that only what is seen is real, you deny the very process by which all things become seen. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. It is not a wild denial of the world. It is allegiance to the cause behind the world. It is the decision to remain inwardly faithful to what has been accepted in imagination, even while the senses still report the old image. It is the understanding that the old image is passing and the new state is forming. It is not hysteria, it is calm. It is not fantasy, it is law. When a farmer plants seed, he does not call himself deluded because he sees no stalk the next morning. He knows the process is hidden. He knows the seed is doing its work beneath the surface. He knows that the visible field is not the whole story. That is faith, not madness, not denial. A wise farmer does not curse the soil because the harvest is not visible immediately. He waits in the knowledge of law. You must learn to do the same with imagination. If you have planted the state of being supplied, do not panic because the old number still appears. If you have planted the state of being loved, do not panic because silence still lingers. If you have planted the state of freedom, do not panic because the old walls seem near. If you have planted the state of success, do not panic because the old evidence still speaks. The seed has its season, the bridge has its movement, the law has its way. Your task is not to force the harvest. Your task is to remain faithful to the seed. This is what it means to ignore reality. You ignore it as final. You ignore it as identity. You ignore it as master. You do not ignore it as a passing appearance in the world of effects. You simply refuse to let it command your inner life. Let me give you a simple image. Suppose you hear an echo in a valley. The echo repeats a word you no longer wish to hear. You do not fall to your knees before the echo. You do not say, "The echo has decreed my future." You understand that the echo belongs to a voice already spoken. It is old sound returning. If you desire a new echo, you speak a new word. So when reality echoes lack, speak supply. When it echoes rejection, speak chosen. When it echoes delay, speak fulfilled. When it echoes fear, speak peace. Not merely with lips, but with state. Another image, suppose you see a shadow on the wall. It may look dark, even distorted. A child may tremble before it, but you know it is only a shadow. You do not ask, you change the form and the light. So when the world shows a dark image, do not tremble as though the shadow were sovereign. Change the state that casts it. Turn inward. Assume the desired end. Let the light of consciousness fall upon a new form, another image. Suppose you look in a mirror and see an old expression on your face. You do not call the reflection eternal. You do not make a religion of the reflection. You change the face. So when the world reflects an old self, do not say, "This is who I am." Say, "This is who I was conscious of being. Now I choose again." Then choose. Wear the new expression of consciousness. The mirror must follow. You can see the appearance without serving it. This is one of the most important disciplines of the awakened life. To see and not serve. To notice and not bow. To hear and not obey. To feel and not identify. To move through the world of effects while remaining rooted in cause. This is mastery. The sleeping man is tossed by every appearance. If the day is pleasant, he feels blessed. If the day is difficult, he feels cursed. If someone smiles, he feels chosen. If someone is silent, he feels forgotten. If money appears, he feels secure. If money is delayed, he feels unsafe. His inner life is owned by the visible world. He does not create, he reacts. He receives commands from shadows. The awakened man lives differently. His senses report, but they do not rule. Circumstances appear, but they do not define. He may walk through the same street, hear the same noises, read the same letters, and yet live in another state. He knows what is seen is temporary. He knows what is assumed is creative. Therefore he gives his feeling to the end, not to the evidence. He gives his inner speech to fulfillment, not to fear. He gives his night to the state desired, not to the day's report. And this is especially important before sleep. For many people do well enough during the day, or at least they try. But when the night comes, they surrender to old reality. They lie down and rehearse everything that appears to be wrong. They see the bill again, they hear the no again. They relive the delay again. They imagine tomorrow as a continuation of yesterday, and in that state they fall asleep. Then they wonder why life repeats. Do not do this tonight. Do not carry the old report into the deep as though it were truth. Do not let the senses have the last word. Let imagination have the last word. Let the fulfilled assumption have the last word. Let the state desired be the final reality you feel before sleep. The last feeling of the night enters deeply. Therefore, choose that feeling deliberately. If the day showed you lack, let the night show you supply. If the day showed you silence, let the night show you love. If the day showed you delay, let the night show you fulfillment. If the day showed you uncertainty, let the night show you peace. If the day showed you a closed door, let the night show you the door already open. Not as a fight against the day, but as a conscious return to cause. You may say, "But the appearance feels so real." Of course it does. It has hardened. It has been repeated. It has been accepted before. But do not confuse the feeling of familiarity with truth. Many things feel real only because they have been rehearsed. Fear can feel real. Lack can feel real. Rejection can feel real. Failure can feel real. But they are states, not eternal laws, and every state can be left. Your work is not to argue with the old state. Your work is to leave it, quietly, firmly, again and again. Every time the old appearance demands worship, turn within, return to the assumption fulfilled. If you see the bill, you may handle it, but inwardly say, I am supplied. If you hear the no, you may hear it, but inwardly say, life opens for me. If you see delay, you may notice it, but inwardly say, the bridge is forming. If you meet silence, you may be aware of it, but inwardly say, I am chosen. If the body recalls fear, you may feel the sensation, but inwardly say, I am safe. This is choosing cause over effect. The world will call this strange because the world worships appearances, but the world once worshipped many shadows. It worshipped what it did not understand. The awakened man does not ask the sleeping world for permission to awaken. He simply awakens. He learns to stand in the unseen while the seen rearranges itself. Now let me speak to you tenderly, because I know many who hear this have suffered under the weight of outer evidence. You have seen things that seemed final. You have heard words that wounded you. You have carried facts that felt heavy. You have tried to be strong while the senses shouted that nothing was changing. I do not ask you to condemn yourself for having believed them. Man believes the senses until he learns a deeper law. But now you are learning, and because you are learning, you can choose differently. You do not have to hate the senses. You only have to stop worshipping them. You do not have to deny the world. You only have to stop calling it cause. You do not have to pretend the shadow is not there. You only have to remember the shadow has no power of its own. This is freedom. Facts are not final. Facts are finished assumptions. What is seen is temporary. What is assumed is creative. To ignore reality is not to deny the shadow. It is to stop worshipping it. You can see the appearance without serving it. Carry these truths into the night. Let them loosen the old fear. Let them remove the crown from appearances. Let them return you to the only place where creation begins, your own consciousness. Tonight, when the outer world grows quiet, give your loyalty to the unseen. Feel the end. Assume the fulfilled state. Rest in it. Sleep in it. Let it be more important than what the day reported. For the day showed you only effects. The night can receive a new cause, and from that new cause, a new reality will come. Consciousness is the only cause. If you can accept this, not merely as a sentence, not merely as an idea to admire in a quiet hour, but as the living foundation of your world, then your relationship with life will change completely. For you will no longer run outward as a servant runs to a master. You will no longer look at conditions and ask them to grant you permission to feel free. You will no longer wait for the visible world to arrange itself before you dare to assume peace. You will know where the work is done. You will know that the true work is within. Everything begins in consciousness. Before a thing appears in your world, it exists as a state. Before it becomes fact, it is accepted inwardly. Before it is touched by the hand, it is occupied by the imagination. Before it becomes a condition, it is a feeling, an assumption, an inner conviction, a concept of self. The world does not begin outside and move inward. It begins within and moves outward. This is the reversal that awakens man. The state comes first. The world follows. This is not how man has been trained to think. He has been taught to say, when the world changes, I will change. When the money comes, I will feel secure. When the person returns, I will feel loved. When the door opens, I will feel free. When the body improves, I will feel whole. When the evidence appears, but this is the speech of the sleeping man, the man who has mistaken effect for cause. He waits for the shadow to move before he changes the form. He waits for the echo to speak before he changes the voice. He waits for the mirror to smile before he changes the face. But the law does not work in that order. You feel security, and the world must bring forth conditions that correspond to security. You feel loved, and the world must rearrange to echo love. You feel free, and life must open pathways of freedom. You feel whole, and the body and circumstances begin to answer wholeness. You believe inwardly, you assume inwardly, you become inwardly, and then the outer world follows as reflection. Consciousness is the only cause. This means that your state of being is not a private thing without consequence. It is not hidden from life. It is not merely something you carry secretly while the world goes on independently. Your state is the seed of your world. It is constantly speaking. It is constantly commanding. It is constantly shaping the field of events. You may conceal your words from men, but you cannot conceal your state from the law. The law does not listen to appearances. It does not ask what you pretend to be. It does not ask what you say for a moment while feeling the opposite. It brings forth the state you occupy. This is why identity creates experience. What you are conscious of being, you must encounter. If you are conscious of being unwanted, you will meet a world that seems to forget you. If you are conscious of being poor, you will meet a world that seems to limit you. If you are conscious of being overlooked, you will find evidence that others pass you by. If you are conscious of being trapped, life will appear as walls, delays, duties, and burdens. But if you are conscious of being chosen, supplied, guided, loved, free, and fulfilled, then the world must, by law, gather itself around that identity. You do not manifest what you merely want. You manifest what you are conscious of being. A man may want wealth while being conscious of poverty. He may speak of abundance, read of abundance, dream of abundance, even pray for abundance, but if inwardly he is still the poor man trying to become rich, his state is poverty, and the world answers the state. Another man may stand in the same outer condition, with the same amount in his hand, the same facts before his eyes, and yet inwardly he assumes supply. He does not wait for the evidence to give him permission. He enters the state of being provided for. He feels the ease, the quiet assurance, the inward dignity of one who has enough and more than enough. That state becomes seed, and because the state comes first, the world follows. One man sees poverty and becomes poor within. Another sees the same appearance and assumes supply. The first has accepted the appearance as cause. The second has recognized it as effect. The first replants poverty by reaction. The second plants supply by assumption. And life, being impartial, gives to each according to the state he occupies. Do you see the difference? The difference is not in the outer fact. The difference is in consciousness. One bows, one assumes, one lets the visible name him, one names himself inwardly, and lets the visible world catch up. A woman may hear rejection and become abandoned within. She hears silence, and she calls it proof. She hears a harsh word, and she calls it truth. She sees distance, and she says, I am not loved. In that moment she has taken an appearance and joined it to I am. She has accepted abandonment as identity. And because identity creates experience, the world continues to mirror. Another hears silence and refuses to enter the state of abandonment. She does not deny that silence appears. She simply denies its authority. She says inwardly, I am chosen, I am loved, I am remembered, I am secure. She feels this not as a desperate cry, but as a quiet assumption. She lives from it. She sleeps in it. She walks as one already loved. Then life must rearrange. The mirror must change. The echo must answer a new voice. The shadow. One sees rejection and becomes abandoned. Another assumes being chosen, and the world obeys. A man may see failure and strengthen failure. He attempts something, and it does not unfold as he hoped. The outer event appears. The senses report it. He then enters the state of defeat. He says, this always happens to me. I am not capable. I never succeed. He thinks he is describing reality, but he is creating it. He is taking one event and making it identity. He is turning an appearance into assumption, and that assumption persisted in, hardens into fact. Another man may see the same event and assume fulfillment. He does not call the appearance final. He does not give failure the name of God. He does not say, I am failure. He says, this is not the end. I am the one who succeeds. I am guided. I am fulfilled. The end is sure. He returns inwardly to the fulfilled state, and the world begins to arrange itself accordingly. What appeared as failure may become part of the bridge. What looked like a closed way may redirect him to the very path that fulfills his assumption. One sees failure and strengthens failure. Another assumes fulfillment, and failure becomes unable to remain. This is the mystery of life. The outer world does not have one fixed meaning. The state gives it meaning. A delay may be a denial to one man and a bridge to another. A closed door may be defeat to one and redirection to another. Silence may be abandonment to one and preparation to another. The same fact may produce bondage or freedom, depending on the state from which it is met. Therefore, never ask the fact who you are. Tell the fact who you are by remaining faithful to your assumption. The visible world is the confession of invisible consciousness. Look upon your life, not with guilt, but with understanding. The outer world is a confession, a revelation, an outpicturing of what has been accepted. If you do not like the confession, do not curse it. Change what is being confessed within. Do not condemn yourself. Condemnation only plants another bitter seed. Simply awaken. See the law. Understand that what has been accepted can be changed. What has hardened can be replaced by a new assumption. What has been reflected can be altered by a new face before the mirror. You are never trapped by a fact when you know that facts are the children of consciousness. A fact is a child, not a father. Consciousness is the father. Assumption is the seed. Feeling is the mother. The world is the birth. And if you wish for another birth, you must conceive another state. This is why all true prayer is not begging but assuming. Prayer is not asking a distant power to alter effects while you remain unchanged. Prayer is the act of entering the state of the wish fulfilled. It is the inward acceptance that what you desire is already true in consciousness. That acceptance, if persisted in, must externalize. Assumption hardens into fact. At first, an assumption may feel delicate. It may seem fragile, like a small flame in a windy place. The senses may shout against it. The mind may remind you of old evidence. The body may still carry old tension. But if you remain faithful, the assumption gathers reality within you. It becomes more familiar, then more natural, then inevitable. And what becomes natural within must become normal. This is why persistence matters. Not persistence in forcing, not persistence in anxious repetition, persistence in state, persistence in returning to the end, persistence in refusing to let the old appearance rename you, persistence in sleeping as the fulfilled one and waking as the fulfilled one, persistence until the new assumption no longer feels like something you are trying to believe, but like something you are. When the assumption becomes your identity, the world cannot resist it. You may ask, how can I know what state I occupy? Look at what feels natural to you. Not what you say you want, but what feels natural. Does it feel natural to be supplied, or does lack feel more natural? Does it feel natural to be chosen, or does abandonment feel more natural? Does it feel natural to succeed, or does struggle feel more natural? Does it feel natural to be safe, or does fear feel more natural? The state that feels natural is the state you are wearing, and the state you wear is the world you meet. Therefore, the work is to make the desired state natural, not by violence, not by strain, not by forcing the mind to accept what it rejects, but by entering the state gently, repeatedly, especially in the drowsy borderland, before sleep, until it takes on the tones of reality. You return to the feeling of being supplied until supply no longer feels strange. You return to the feeling of being chosen until love no longer feels distant. You return to the feeling of being free until freedom no longer feels impossible. You return to the feeling of fulfillment until fulfillment becomes your home. And then, because consciousness is the only cause, reality must change. Change consciousness, and reality must change. Do not reverse this. Do not say, when reality changes, I will change consciousness. That is the old slavery. That is the old worship of appearances. Begin where creation begins. Change consciousness first. Change the state first. Change identity first. Then the outer world, which is only consciousness objectified, must express the change. This is why the true work is quiet. It is often invisible to others. A man may lie in bed in the stillness of night, and to anyone watching, nothing has happened. His room is the same. His circumstances are the same. The letters on the table are the same. The world outside his window is the same. But if in that silence he has changed state, then something enormous has happened. The cause has changed. The seed has changed. The voice has changed. The face before the mirror has changed. And although the outer world may not yet know it, it will know it soon enough. The greatest movements of life begin unseen. This is why you must not despise the inner act. The world despises it because the world recognizes only visible action. It says, "What have you done?" And if your answer is, "I have assumed a new state," the world laughs. It calls this nothing. But the world is blind to cause. It sees only effects. It praises effort after the fact. It praises struggle after the harvest. It does not understand that the entire chain began in an unseen state. I do not tell you to abandon action. I tell you to put action in its proper place. Action is not cause. Action is expression. Action flows from state. When you occupy the right state, action becomes natural, inspired, timely, and often effortless. You find yourself moved to write, to speak, to go, to remain, to accept, to refuse, to open, to close. The action comes as part of the bridge. But if you act from fear, you often strengthen fear. If you act from lack, you often multiply lack. If you act from desperation, you often confirm desperation. Therefore, go first to consciousness. Hold this gently as you listen. Your state is the seed, not the outer appearance, not the opinions of others, not the history you have carried, not the report of the senses. Your state, the inner attitude you accept as true, the feeling of who you are, the identity you inhabit, that is the seed, and every seed bears after its kind. If tonight you plant the state of fear, do not be surprised by fearful fruit. If tonight you plant the state of lack, do not be surprised by lack appearing in new forms. If tonight you plant the state of being forgotten, do not be surprised by echoes of distance. But if tonight you plant the state of fulfillment, if you sleep as the one who has received, if you let the body feel the relief of completion, if you let the mind rest in the assumption that it is done, then another seed is in the soil. Let it grow. Do not dig it up tomorrow by asking, "Where is it?" Do not poison it by saying, "It did not work." Do not trample it by returning to the old identity. Let the seed live. Water it with inner speech. Protect it with faith. Nourish it with feeling. Return to it each night until it feels natural. The visible world is the confession of invisible consciousness. This means that every time you change consciousness, a new confession must eventually be made visible. Life will confess your supply. Life will confess your being chosen. Life will confess your freedom. Life will confess your peace. Life will confess your success. But it can only confess what you are willing to become conscious of being. So ask yourself now, quietly, as the body relaxes and the outer world grows distant, what am I willing to be conscious of being tonight? Not tomorrow, not someday, tonight. Are you willing to be conscious of being free, even before the door appears open? Are you willing to be conscious of being loved, even before the voice is heard? Are you willing to be conscious of being supplied, even before the number changes? Are you willing to be conscious of being fulfilled, even before the senses report fulfillment? This willingness is the beginning of creation. You do not need to shout. You do not need to strain. You do not need to persuade the world. You need only enter the state and accept it. A quiet assumption is more powerful than 1,000 anxious efforts. A state accepted in stillness has more creative force than outer labor done from fear. For the state is cause, and the world follows cause. Consciousness is the only cause. Repeat it within, not mechanically, but as a truth that frees you. Consciousness is the only cause. The outer world is effect. The state comes first. The world follows. Identity creates experience. Assumption hardens into fact. Therefore, I will no longer wait for facts to give me identity. I will choose my identity in imagination, and facts must follow. Let this be your inward movement tonight. Turn from the report. Turn from the old evidence. Turn from the harvest that has already appeared. Go to the seed. Go to consciousness. Go to I am. Decide what you will join to that sacred name. I am supplied. I am chosen. I am free. I am safe. I am guided. I am fulfilled. Speak them as one, remembering. Do not force them upon the mind. Let them descend into feeling. Feel the ease of supply. Feel the warmth of being chosen. Feel the open air of freedom. Feel the softness of safety. Feel the quiet confidence of guidance. Feel the finality of fulfillment. This feeling is the creative act. And if the old world whispers, "But look at me," answer gently, "You are effect." If it says, "I am real," answer, "You are old consciousness made." If it says, "I am final," answer, "No. Consciousness is the only cause, and consciousness has changed." This is not arrogance. This is alignment with law. Man's true dignity begins when he stops being the servant of appearances and becomes conscious of being the operant power. Not the little personality struggling against the universe, but the I am within, selecting states, assuming reality, giving form to life through imagination. This is your power. It has always been your power. You have used it unconsciously. Now you are learning to use it consciously. And tonight, as you move closer to sleep, this truth becomes even more important, because the state you carry into sleep is deeply received. If you carry the state of reaction, you continue the old world. If you carry the state of fulfillment, you begin another. Sleep takes your state and gives it to the depths. The depths take your state and build from it. Therefore, do not sleep as the old self. Do not sleep as the one who waits for reality to change. Sleep as the one who has changed cause. Sleep as the one who knows that the consciousness is the only cause. Sleep as the one who knows that the state comes first and the world follows. Sleep as the one who knows that assumption hardens into fact. Sleep as the one who knows that reality must change when consciousness changes. Let the outer world fade now. Let it be effect, let it be shadow, let it be harvest, let it be old confession. You do not have to fight it. You do not have to fear it. You only have to stop taking it as cause. The true cause is within you, and within you tonight. A new state may be chosen, a new seed may be planted, a new world may begin. Now I want you to hear this with great gentleness, because it will bring relief to the heart that has been burdened by appearances. What you see now is not always what is being born. What stands before your senses tonight is not necessarily the truth of what is unfolding within you. The visible world is slow compared to imagination. It lags behind, it follows, it reports what has already hardened, not always what is now being created. The old reality is old news. This is one of the most merciful truths in the law. The fact before you is not the limit within you. The condition you see tonight may be the result of a state you occupied yesterday, last week, last year, or for many years without knowing it. It may be the visible echo of an old fear, an old assumption, an old identity, an old sentence joined to the sacred words I am. But because it appears now, man assumes it is speaking of now. He looks at the old harvest and says, this is my future. But no, it is only harvest. It is only reflection. It is only the delayed report of what has already been planted. Do not let yesterday's reflection decide tomorrow's harvest. When you look at your present circumstances, you are often looking at the shadow of a former state. You are looking at consciousness already expressed. You are seeing the print of something once accepted. It may be vivid, yes. It may seem urgent, yes. It may stand close to your face and demand attention, yes. But it is not prophecy unless you make it prophecy by accepting it again. The bank account may reflect yesterday. It may show a number that belongs to an old state of fear, struggle, or limitation. But do not let that number enter you as identity. Do not look upon it and say, this is who I am. The number is not your being. The number is not your source. The number is not the creative power. It is a reflection, a measurement of a former arrangement in the world of effects. If you react to it with fear, if you carry it into sleep as truth, if you let it name you poor or powerless, then you have replanted the old seed. But if you see it and remember, this is old news, I am supplied now in consciousness, then you have broken its command. The silence may reflect yesterday, the silence of one you love, the silence of a door not yet opened, the silence of an answer not yet heard. It may feel like absence. It may tempt you to say, I am forgotten, I am not chosen, nothing is moving. But silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes silence is simply the old echo fading before the new word returns. Sometimes silence is the space in which the bridge is forming. Sometimes silence is only the senses failing to hear what imagination has already set in motion. Do not call it abandonment. Do not crown it as truth. Say quietly within yourself, this silence is not my master. I am chosen. I am remembered. I am answered. The law works in silence. The closed door may reflect yesterday. You may have seen a refusal, a delay, a path that seemed to end. You may have stood before something and felt the old heaviness rise. It is impossible. It cannot happen. It is too late. But a closed door in the visible world is not the end of imagination. It may be the last image of an old route, not the denial of the destination. The law does not require the door you are staring at. The law requires the state. When the state is occupied, life may open another door, soften this door, move you through a way you could never have designed, or reveal that the closing itself was part of the bridge. So do not let one closed door become a prison in consciousness. Let it be old news. Let the end remain true. The fear may reflect yesterday. This is very important. Many believe that because fear is felt now, it must be true now. But often fear is the body repeating an old state. It is an old prayer still vibrating in the nerves. It is memory in sensation. It is the residue of assumptions once believed. If you feel fear tonight, do not condemn yourself. Do not say, then I have failed. Do not say, then the old reality must be true. Simply recognize it. This too is old news. This too is an echo. This too is a feeling I once accepted, but I need not worship it now. Then return gently to the state you choose. What you see is not a seed beneath the soil does not shout to prove itself. The field may look empty while life is already moving below. The womb does not announce every hidden formation to the eyes of the world. The root grows before the branch is seen. The bridge of incidents begins before the mind recognizes movement. If you judge only by what is visible, you will often declare nothing is happening at the very moment. Everything has begun. This is why so many abandon their assumption too soon. They enter a state at night. They feel the wish fulfilled. For a moment, they touch peace. Then they wake and look at the same outer scene, the same room, the same numbers, the same absence, the same evidence. And they say, it did not work. But what did they expect? That the harvest would leap from seed in one instant because the anxious mind demanded proof? No, the law is perfect, but it works in its own order. The inner act is cause. The outer fact is effect. Effect must follow cause, but the world of effects moves through time and sequence. Imagination is instant. The visible world unfolds. In imagination, you may assume now. You may enter the end now. You may feel fulfilled now. The state is available now because consciousness is not bound as the senses are bound. But the outer world arranges itself through events, people, movements, conversations, impulses, delays, and openings. This arrangement may look ordinary. It may even look contrary for a moment. But if you remain faithful to the end, the world must catch up to the state. So tonight, when I tell you that the old reality is old news, I am not speaking lightly. I am giving you a new way to see. The appearance in front of you has already happened in consciousness. It is the end of a prior movement, not necessarily the beginning of the next. The next begins in what you assume now. The next begins in the state you carry into sleep tonight. The next begins in the inner word you accept after the senses grow quiet. If you let the old reality tell you what to assume, you will repeat it. If you let the new assumption tell reality what it must become, you will create. This is the choice every night. Most men take the old world to bed with them. They take the day's evidence and press it into the subconscious as though sealing a letter. They say, this happened, therefore I am this. This did not happen, therefore I am denied. This appeared, therefore I must fear. And then they sleep in the state of the old report. They call it natural because they have repeated it so often, but they are not resting, they are planting, they are sending yesterday forward. Do not send yesterday forward tonight. Let yesterday end where it is. Let the old number remain on the page without entering your soul. Let the old silence remain an appearance without becoming your name. Let the old door remain an image without becoming your destiny. Let the old fear remain a sensation without becoming your God. You are free to choose a new state, even while the old facts remain visible for a little while. This is mastery. To be moved only when the world moves is slavery. To move within and let the world follow is creation. The sleeping man says, the world has not changed, therefore I cannot change. The awakened man says, I have changed, therefore the sleeping man waits for the mirror to show him a new face. The awakened man changes the face and knows the mirror is already defeated. It must reflect. The 3D world, the world of space and form, is slow compared to imagination. It is dense. It is the final crust of consciousness. It is the last stage, not the first. Therefore, do not use the last stage as proof that the first stage has not changed. If you change the seed, the harvest has been changed in principle, even before the field displays it. If you change the voice, the echo has been changed in principle, even before sound returns. If you change the state, reality has been changed in cause, even before the senses confirm it. This is why faith is necessary. Faith is not blind belief in nothing. Faith is loyalty to cause before effect appears. Faith is knowing that the seed is real before the harvest is seen. Faith is knowing that the inner assumption is creative before the outer world reports it. Faith is refusing to let old news cancel new creation. Do not let yesterday's reflection decide tomorrow's harvest. When you hear the old inner voice say, but look, nothing is different, answer it calmly. The outer world is a delayed reflection. When it says, but the facts are the same, answer, facts are finished assumptions, not final law. When it says, but I still feel fear, answer, this fear is an old state passing through. I choose peace. When it says, but the door is still closed, answer, the bridge is not measured by one door. The end is accepted. You must learn to speak to appearances as one who understands law. Not with anger, not with panic, not with the strain of trying to convince yourself, but with the quiet authority of one who knows where cause resides. You can look at an old fact and say, "You are not my future." You can look at an old condition and say, "You are not my identity." You can feel an old fear and say, "You are not my prophecy." You can hear an old silence and say, "You are not my truth." This is not denial. This is correct classification. You are putting each thing in its proper place. The old fact belongs to old consciousness. The new state belongs to now. The old reflection belongs to yesterday. The new assumption belongs to creation. The old harvest belongs to former seed. The new seed belongs to tonight. And because tonight is available, you are free. This is the relief I want you to feel as you listen. The current world does not have the last word. The present appearance is not the final decree. The fact before you is not the limit within you. You are not trapped by what has already appeared. You are only trapped if you keep giving what has appeared the power to define what you now assume. Suppose a man has worn the garment of poverty for many years. He has spoken it, feared it, expected it, slept in it, and seen it reflected back to him. Then one day he hears the law and dares to assume supply. At first, supply feels strange. The old garment still clings to him. The outer world still shows the marks of the old state. His account may not instantly change. His surroundings may look the same. But if he understands, he will not be discouraged. He will say, "This is the old garment. I am putting on the new." Each night he sleeps in the feeling of supply. Each day he refuses to call the old evidence final. Slowly, or sometimes suddenly, the new state becomes natural. And when it becomes natural, life must clothe him accordingly. Suppose a woman has long assumed rejection. She has carried the feeling of being overlooked, unchosen, unseen. Life has echoed this state in painful ways. She feels the warmth of being chosen. She hears inwardly the words she longed to hear. She sleeps not as one waiting, but as one received. In the morning the old world may still seem quiet, but she must not call that quiet final. It may only be old news. If she persists, if she does not let yesterday's reflection decide tomorrow's harvest, the mirror must change. Suppose a man has failed and failed until failure. But if he awakens, he can look upon the delay and say, "No, this is who I was conscious of being. Tonight I assume fulfillment." He does not need the world to agree first. He plants the seed. He becomes inwardly the one who succeeds. And the world, no matter how stubborn it seemed, must rearrange around the new state. This is why I say the old reality is old news. It may still be visible, but visibility. It may still speak, but sound is not truth. It may still be felt, but feeling can be changed. The old reality only continues if you continue it in consciousness. Tonight, let it end. Let the old reality be old. Let it belong to the past. Let it be the echo of what was, not the command of what shall be. Withdraw from it, not by hating it, not by fighting it, not by denying that it appears. You only have to stop feeding it. Every time you react from the old identity, you feed it. Every time you carry it into sleep, you feed it. Every time you rehearse it in inner speech, you feed it. Every time you say, "This is just how my life is," you feed it. But when you see it as old news, something loosens. You no longer need to worship it. You no longer need to obey it. You can let it fade. It may be only a breath of relief, only a gentle sense that perhaps all is well, only a quiet image of fulfillment, only a small feeling of being safe. Do not despise this. The seed is small, but it contains the tree. The feeling is gentle, but it belongs to cause. If you carry that feeling into sleep, the subconscious receives it. If you return to it, it grows. If you remain faithful, it hardens into fact. So tonight, do not ask the visible world whether your new life has begun. The visible world is not qualified to answer. It only knows what has already appeared. Ask imagination, ask the state of the wish fulfilled, ask the quiet feeling of the end, ask the inner certainty that does not depend on evidence. There, in that unseen place, the new reality begins. And if the senses say, but I still hear silence, answer, yes, you hear an old echo. You do not hear the movements of the bridge. If the senses say, but I still feel fear, answer, yes, the body remembers, but I choose a new feeling now. If the senses say, but nothing has changed, answer, cause has changed, effect will follow. Let this be your comfort as you drift nearer to rest. The world current, the appearance present before you is not the end of the story. The fact that seems so solid is not the limit of the I am within you. The old reality is old news. Tonight you may plant a new state. Tonight you may enter a new identity. Tonight you may sleep as one who has already received. And the reality that follows must obey the state from which you sleep. Do not carry yesterday's reflection into tomorrow's harvest. Let the new assumption be the only truth you carry into the deep, for the fact before you is not the limit within you. What you see is not always what is being born. And in the silence of this night, while the outer world grows dim, a new cause can be planted, a new state can be accepted, and a new reality can begin to move toward form. There comes a moment in every man's awakening when he must make a great shift. It is not no outer authority announces that he has crossed an invisible line. And yet within him, something decisive has happened. He has ceased to live as one who merely reacts to life, and he has begun to live as one who assumes. This is the great shift from bondage to power. Before this shift, man is like a leaf carried by every wind. If the world smiles, he feels blessed. If the world delays, he feels forgotten. If the account is full, he feels secure. If the account is low, he feels poor. His inner life is not truly his own. It is rented out to circumstances. It belongs to the latest report of the senses. He calls this being realistic, but I call it unconscious creation. Reaction is unconscious creation. When you react, you may think you are merely responding to what has happened. You may think you are innocent, that the world acted first, but the law reveals a deeper truth. Reaction is not neutral. Reaction is the acceptance of the appearance as cause. Reaction is the emotional agreement with the old reflection. Reaction is the planting of the same seed again. If you see lack and react with fear, you have not merely noticed lack, you have entered the state of lack. If you hear silence and react with pain, you have not merely heard silence, you have entered the state of abandonment. If you see delay and react with impatience, you have not merely observed delay, you have entered the state of waiting. If you meet difficulty and react with defeat, you have not merely faced a difficulty, you have entered the state of failure, and what you enter, you create from. This is why reaction repeats the old state. The appearance comes as harvest, and man reacts to it with the same feeling that planted it. Therefore the old reality feeds itself through your reaction. The old world survives because you keep believing its report. It appears, you feel it, you name yourself by it, and then it returns in another form. This is the circle from which man must awaken. When you react, you obey the shadow. The shadow moves, and you follow. The mirror reflects, and you bow. The echo speaks, and you answer as though it were the first voice. The world presents an old fact, and you let that fact decide what you shall feel, what you shall imagine, what you shall expect, who you shall be. This is the life of the reactor. He asks every morning, what does reality say? And whatever reality says, he becomes. What does the account say? Then I will decide whether I am secure. What does the letter say? Then I will decide whether I am accepted. Then I will decide whether I am loved. What does the world say? Then I will decide who I am. This is slavery, though most men call it common sense. It is slavery because the inner man waits for the outer world to grant him identity. It is slavery because consciousness, which is cause, has surrendered itself to effect. It is slavery because the I am has allowed shadows to clothe it. But the Creator lives. The Creator asks, what do I choose to assume? This is a different life entirely. It is a life lived from cause. It is a life in which the outer world may speak, but it does not rule. The senses may report, but they do not command. Circumstances may appear, but they do not define. The Creator knows that appearances are effects, and therefore he goes to the place where effects are born. He goes to consciousness. To assume is to choose inwardly the state you will occupy, regardless of what the outer world is presently showing. It is not pretending, it is not theatrical effort, it is not saying empty words, while still bowing inwardly to fear. Assumption is the quiet acceptance of the end as present fact in consciousness. It is saying, this is what I am now conscious of being, and then dwelling there. It is choosing the seed, instead of worshipping the heart. When you assume, the shadow must obey you. The shadow may still appear for a moment in its old form, but its authority has been removed. Cause has changed. The light has changed. The object has changed. Therefore, the shadow cannot remain. It may linger as old evidence, but it no longer has a future unless you give it one. This is why assumption is power. It does not chase the shadow. It changes what casts it. Let me show you the reactor sees poverty and says, I am poor. The creator sees the same appearance and says, this is old evidence. I am supplied. The reactor allows a number to become identity. The creator allows imagination to become identity. One repeats the old state. The other plants a new state. The reactor hears rejection and says, I am unwanted. The creator hears the same sound or the same sight. The creator gives loyalty to the unseen assumption. One deepens the wound. The other changes the cause. The reactor sees delay and says, nothing is happening. The creator sees delay and says, the bridge is forming. The end is accepted. I do not judge by appearances. The reactor gives power to time. The creator gives power to state. One waits as a victim. The other rests as one who has received. The creator sees failure and says, this is not final. I am the one who succeeds. Fulfillment is my state. The reactor turns one event into destiny. The creator turns one assumption into a new world. Do you feel the difference? It is not small. It is the difference between living automatically and living deliberately. It is the difference between being moved by life and moving life from within. It is the difference. Now, I know that reaction can feel natural. It has been practiced for years. The body reacts before the mind has time to reason. A letter arrives and the stomach tightens. A silence appears and the heart contracts. A delay comes and the mind begins to race. You may say, Neville, how can I stop reacting when the reaction comes so quickly? I understand. But I tell you, you do not overcome reaction by condemning. The moment you notice reaction, you have already begun to separate from it. If fear arises, you may say, this is the old state moving through me. If impatience arises, you may say, this is the old man asking to live again. If sadness arises from an appearance, you may say, this is the shadow asking me to obey. Then, without violence, without panic, without scolding yourself, you turn inward and you ask, what would I feel if I were already free? You ask, what would my inner posture be if the answer had already come? You ask, who would I be if this were finished? Then you enter that answer. You do not wait for the world to give you evidence. You give evidence inwardly. This is one of the most important distinctions. The reactor waits for evidence. The creator gives evidence inwardly. The reactor says, show me, and then I will believe. The creator says, I believe, and therefore the world must show me. The reactor says, let the outer world prove that I am safe. The creator feels safety within, and lets the outer world conform. The reactor says, let someone love me, and then I will feel chosen. The creator assumes being chosen, and life must mirror it. The reactor says, let money appear, and then I will feel supplied. The creator. This is not arrogance. This is the law in its right order. The inner evidence is feeling. If you can feel the reality of the wish fulfilled, then you have given the subconscious its instruction. The outer evidence is only the later witness. Do not wait for the witness before you plant the seed. The witness comes because the seed was planted. Do not wait for the mirror before you change the face. The mirror changes because the face has changed. Do not wait for the echo answers because the voice has gone forth. Reaction says, the world has spoken, and I must obey. Assumption says, I have spoken within, and the world must obey. This is why the shift is so great. A man may spend his entire life reacting and never know he is creating. He believes he is merely living. He believes he is merely handling what comes. But every reaction is a form of inner consent. He does not see that while he complains of the world, he is renewing it. While he fears it, he is feeding it. While he waits for it, he is prolonging it. The creator, however, becomes watchful in a new way. Not anxious, not tense, not fearful of every thought, but awake. He begins to notice, am I reacting now, or am I assuming? This one question can change a life. When a circumstance appears, when an old fear rises, ask, am I repeating yesterday, or am I planting tonight? When the senses report lack, ask, am I letting the shadow command me? Or am I returning to the light? This question returns you to power. Do not think that assumption must always be dramatic. Often it is quiet. It is a small inward turn, a breath, a release, a return. You may be in the midst of a day and you do not let the feeling run away with your identity. You say within, no, I know what this is. This is old news. I choose the end. Then you feel, even for a moment, the state of the wish fulfilled. That moment is not small, it is a seed. The more you do this, the less automatic the old life becomes. At first, reaction may come quickly and assumption may feel like effort. But with practice, the new state, you recover your inner authority more easily. Eventually, the old appearances no longer produce the same obedience in you. They may arise, but they do not enter. They may speak, but they do not rule. They may stand before you, but they no longer decide who you are. This is freedom from automatic living. Man believes he is trapped by circumstances, but more often he is trapped by habitual reaction. The same event produces the same assumption produces the same world. Break the reaction and you break the chain. Assume the new state and you begin a new chain. Let me give you a simple story. A man receives a letter that once would have filled him with dread. In the old state, before he even opened it, he would have imagined difficulty. He would have felt trapped. He would have carried the letter into the night and slept in anxiety. And life, faithful to his state, would have... But now he knows the law. The letter arrives. He notices the old tightening begin. But instead of obeying it, he pauses. He says, this is a report, not a command. He breathes. He enters the feeling of resolution. He imagines, perhaps only for a moment, the matter settled. He hears inwardly, all is well. He feels the relief. Then he opens the letter from a different state. Or perhaps the outer act may be simple, but the inner shift is immense. He has moved from reaction to assumption. He has stopped letting the letter create his state. He has chosen the state from which the letter will be met. That is conscious creation. Another person waits for a message, a word, a sign of love. In the old state, silence would create panic. The mind would rush into stories of abandonment. The body would tighten. But now the silence appears, and she remembers. Silence is not cause. She turns inward. She assumes being chosen. She feels the warmth of being loved. She hears inwardly the voice of fulfillment. She does not wait for the outer message to grant her worth. She gives herself the inner evidence. She sleeps as one already loved. And life must eventually reflect the state. This is the difference between reaction and assumption. He waits for the world to move, and then follows. The Creator goes first. He moves in consciousness, and the world follows. The reactor is always asking reality, what now? The Creator says to reality, this is what I am. The reactor lives from evidence. The Creator lives from imagination. The reactor repeats the old. The Creator plants the new. Now as you listen tonight, let this become very personal. Where have you been reacting? What appearance has been naming you? What delay has been deciding your mood? What silence has been defining your worth? What number has been declaring your supply? What memory has been choosing your future? Do not judge yourself. Simply see. To see is to awaken. Then ask, what do I choose to assume instead? If the old reaction says, I am not safe, assume, I am held. If the old reaction says, I am lacking, assume, I am supplied. If the old reaction says, I am trapped, assume, I am free. If the old reaction says, this will never change, assume it is already changing in consciousness and the world must follow. These assumptions are not empty words if you enter them. Feel them. Let the body soften around them. Let the breath slow. Let them become not. That is how assumption becomes creative. When you react, you give power to appearances. When you assume, you give power to imagination. When you react, you are saying, the shadow is my lord. When you assume, the shadow must obey you. And now we bring this truth toward the night, because sleep magnifies the state you carry. If you go to sleep reacting to the day, you continue the day. If you go to sleep assuming the fulfilled state, this is why the last inner movement before sleep is so important. It is the moment you decide whether you will carry reaction into the deep or assumption into the deep. Do not carry reaction tonight. Do not carry the day's evidence as though it were prophecy. Do not carry the old feeling as though it were identity. Do not carry the shadow as though it were source. Let the day be finished. Let its reports become old news. Let the senses grow quiet. Assume deeply. Assume the end. Feel yourself as the one who has received. Feel yourself as the one who is no longer waiting for the world to speak. Feel yourself as the one who gives the command inwardly, through state. Feel yourself as the one who no longer reacts automatically, but creates consciously. Let the question of the reactor fade. What does reality say? And let the question of the creator arise. What do I choose? Choose the fulfilled state. Choose the end. Choose the identity that matches your desire. Choose the inner evidence. Choose the feeling. Choose it before sleep, and sleep in it as though it were true, because in imagination it is true, and imagination is the cause of the reality you are about to meet. Reaction is unconscious creation. Assumption is conscious creation. Tonight, leave unconscious creation behind. Tonight, assume, and let the shadow begin to obey you. Now we come to one of the most sacred hours in the life of man. Though most pass through it carelessly, it comes every night. It asks no permission. It arrives gently, quietly, without ceremony. It is the borderland between waking and sleep, the hour when the outer world loses its grip and imagination may be impressed upon the deep. I have called it the state akin to sleep. You have known this state all your life. It is that tender interval, when the body grows heavy, when the breath begins to slow, when the sharpness of the day softens, when the room seems less important, when the world outside grows distant, and the inner world becomes near. It is not full sleep, and it is not ordinary waking. It is the twilight of consciousness, the golden doorway, where the senses weaken and the subconscious opens. In the waking, they stand like guards at the gate and say, "Look at the facts. Look at what is missing. Look at what has not happened. Look at what they said. Look at what the world is showing you." The reasoning mind joins them and begins to calculate, compare, resist, doubt, defend, and fear. It asks how, it asks when, it asks why not yet. It measures the visible world and calls its measurement truth. But before sleep, the ear may still hear sounds, but they feel farther away. The body begins to release its demand for movement. The mind, which during the day was so quick to object, becomes slower. The arguments lose their edge. The old world becomes less convincing, and in that soft hour, imagination can enter more deeply. This is why I tell you, sleep is not escape. Sleep is creation. Most men think sleep is merely the end, but sleep is far more than rest. Sleep is the womb of tomorrow. Sleep is the quiet workshop in which the impressions of consciousness are taken below the surface and prepared for expression. What you carry into sleep is not lost, it is planted. The final feeling of the night becomes the seed of tomorrow. Consider how men usually sleep. They lie down with the day still alive in them. They carry conversations into the pillow. They replay disappointment. They see again the face that wounded them, the letter that frightened them, the number that seemed too small, the door that seemed closed. They fall asleep not in freedom, but in reaction. They think they are resting, but they are sowing. They think the day is over, but they are sending the day forward into another form. And when tomorrow resembles yesterday, they call it fate. It is not fate, it is faithful law. The subconscious does not ask whether the impression is. It does not argue with you. It does not correct your fear. It does not say, "You should not plant this." It receives what is felt as true and begins to express it. If you fall asleep feeling rejected, you have planted rejection. If you fall asleep feeling poor, you have planted lack. If you fall asleep feeling afraid, you have planted fear. If you fall asleep feeling afraid, you have planted fear. But this same faithfulness is your freedom. For if the subconscious receives fear, it will also receive faith. If it receives lack, it will also receive supply. If it receives rejection, it will also receive love. If it receives bondage, it will also receive freedom. If you can enter sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, then you have planted a new seed in the most fertile hour of the day. The state akin to sleep is the. In ordinary waking, you may imagine, and then immediately argue with yourself. You may say, "I am supplied," and the mind answers, "But look at the account." You may say, "I am chosen," and the mind answers, "But listen to the silence." You may say, "I am free," and the mind answers, "But look at the walls around you." In the waking state, the senses often rush to contradict your assumption. They press their evidence upon you. But as you approach sleep, the contradiction weakens. The reasoning mind becomes quieter. The senses lose their force. The inner picture becomes easier to accept. And if you are wise, you will not waste that hour. You will not drift into it with the old world in your arms. You will enter it as one entering holy ground. Now, I want you to understand how simple this is. You do not have to force yourself. You do not have to fight thought. You need only soften. Let the body grow still. Let the breath slow of its own accord. Let the day fade. Let the world recede. And when you feel that inward quiet beginning, bring before the mind one simple imaginal act that implies the end is already true, not the struggle, not the process, not the explanation, the end. If you desire peace, do not imagine fighting for peace. Imagine the relief of being provided for. If you desire love, do not imagine chasing or persuading. Imagine the feeling of being already held, already chosen, already loved. If you desire freedom, do not imagine breaking chains with desperate hands. Imagine walking as one who is already free. Then feel it. Feeling is the secret, because feeling is what the subconscious accepts. A cold picture does little. It becomes instruction. It tells the subconscious, this is true, build from this. And the subconscious, faithful servant of your consciousness, begins to move the world in ways you cannot consciously devise. So before sleep, do not let the old reality have the last word. The old reality has spoken all day. It has shown its images, made its noises, presented its reports. It has had enough of your attention. Tonight, do not take the day's evidence into the deep. Do not give the senses the final authority. The final feeling of the night must belong to the reality you choose, not the reality you are leaving behind. There is a great difference between sleeping as a reactor and sleeping as a creator. The reactor goes to bed asking, what did the world show me today? Then he relives it, he repeats it, he feels it, he gives it the sacred silence of the night. The creator goes to bed asking, what do I now choose to assume? Then he enters it, he feels it, he sleeps in it. One carries the past into the subconscious, the other carries the fulfilled desire. One repeats reality, the other creates reality. Tonight you must sleep as a creator. Let the body become heavy. The heaviness is not your enemy, it is a gift. It is the outer world loosening its. Let the belly unclench, let the breath descend. A slow breath is like a door opening inward. With every exhale, the day moves farther away. With every moment of softness, the inner world becomes more available. The room may still be around you, but it no longer needs your loyalty. The bed may support you, but imagination will carry you. The outer world may still exist, but it is losing its voice. And in that quiet, you may hear something deeper, the voice of the state fulfilled. Perhaps it is a simple sentence, it is done. Perhaps it is the sound of someone saying, I am so happy for you. Perhaps it is the inward sigh of relief that comes when a burden is finally lifted. Perhaps it is the feeling of waking tomorrow with no fear in the body. Perhaps it is the sensation of holding a letter and knowing the answer is yes. Perhaps it is nothing more than a soft certainty, a warm stillness, a quiet knowing that all is well. Do not despise the simplicity. The subconscious is impressed by reality, not complexity. One simple scene, felt as true, is enough. One short act, entered from within, is enough. One phrase spoken from the state, with the body relaxing into relief, is enough. It is not length that creates, it is acceptance. Many fail because they try to do too much. They make imagination into labor. They construct long stories. They force pictures. They test themselves. They wonder whether they are doing it correctly. They strain to create feeling, and the strain itself becomes the state. But you are not to strain tonight. The state akin to sleep is not entered by violence. It is entered by surrender. You sink into it, you allow it, you let the inner act become natural, you let the feeling carry you. If thoughts arise, let them arise. Do not fight them. A thought is only a passing visitor. You do not need to invite it to stay. If an old worry appears, do not wrestle with it. Simply return to the end. If the mind wanders, guide it back gently. If the picture fades, bring back the feeling. And if the feeling is small, rest. A seed does not need to be large to grow. Before sleep, the outer world loses its voice. This is one of the great mercies of life. In the day, you may feel surrounded by facts. At night, the facts begin to loosen. In the day, the senses seem powerful. At night, their power weakens. In the day, the reasoning mind may demand proof. At night, proof is no longer necessary. In the same way, the inner world can be felt directly, and what is felt there. That is why I have always urged men to use this hour, not because there is magic in darkness, but because there is receptivity in the state. The conscious mind relaxes its guard. The subconscious stands open. The seed can pass into the soil. If you plant deliberately, you change your tomorrow at the level of cause. Let me put it this way. During the day, you may be like a man trying to plant seed on ground that is hard from the sun. The seed may fall, but it remains on the surface, if not pressed in by feeling. But at night, near sleep, the soil softens. The seed can sink. A feeling accepted in that hour goes deeper than many anxious efforts made in full waking. A quiet assumption before sleep can do what hours of tense repetition cannot. The state akin to sleep is the doorway where imagination becomes instruction. What instruction will you give tonight? Will you instruct the deep with worry? Will you instruct it with the old evidence? Will you instruct it with fear of tomorrow? Will you instruct it with the memory of what did not happen? Or will you instruct it with fulfillment? Will you give it the feeling of already being safe, already being supplied, already being chosen, already being free, already living from the end? This is your choice. This is your creative act. And I tell you, you do not have to be perfect. You do not have to silence every thought. You do not have to maintain a picture for hours. You only have to touch the state sincerely and let it carry you. You only have to let the final feeling belong to fulfillment rather than fear. If you fall asleep while feeling the end, the act is complete. Sleep itself carries the seed into the deep. This is why the night can change everything. The man who reacts all day but learns to fall asleep in the fulfilled state has begun to alter the root. The woman who has feared all day but enters sleep as one already loved has planted a new cause. The one who has seen delay but sleeps in completion has refused to let delay become destiny. The one who has seen lack but sleeps in supply has chosen a reality deeper than the visible report. And the law is faithful. You may not know how the bridge will form. You need not know. While you sleep, you do not arrange the world with your conscious mind. You do not force men to move. You do not calculate events. You rest. The subconscious receives the state and begins the arrangement. People are moved, ideas arise, roads bend, circumstances shift, not always suddenly, not always dramatically, but lawfully. And when the fulfillment appears, it often comes with such naturalness that you may almost forget it began in the silence of night. So tonight, as the body grows heavy, remember that heaviness is the doorway. As the breath slows, as the day fades, remember that yesterday need not be carried forward. As the senses weaken, remember that imagination is becoming more important. As the reasoning mind becomes quiet, remember that the subconscious is opening. Do not fill that opening with old fear. Fill it with the end. Let your inner act be simple. Let your feeling be gentle. Let your state be fulfilled. Let the last movement of consciousness be not, what if it does not happen, but it is already done. Not when will the world change, but I accept the change within. Not I hope, but I have received. Not I am waiting, but I am. And if one sentence helps you, let it be this: I sleep in the reality I choose. Feel the meaning of it. You are not sleeping in the old report. You are not sleeping in reaction. You are not sleeping in fear. You are sleeping in the reality you choose. You are sleeping in imagination. You are sleeping in the end. You are sleeping as one who has already received. The final feeling of the night becomes the seed of tomorrow. Therefore, make the final feeling worthy of the life you desire. Make it peace. Make it relief. Make it gratitude. Make it safety. Make it love. Make it fulfillment. Make it the quiet certainty of one who no longer obeys the outer world. Sleep is not escape. Sleep is creation. The world may think you are merely resting, but if you enter this state deliberately, you are withdrawing power from the old appearance and giving it to the fulfilled assumption. You are turning from the visible effect to the invisible cause. You are placing a new seed in the deep, and the deep, faithful and silent, will bring forth after its kind. So let the night become holy to you. Let the borderland before sleep become your workshop. Let the fading of the senses become your freedom. Let the silence become your altar. Let imagination become instruction. And as you drift, do not ask the old reality for permission. It is losing its voice now. Let it fade. Let it dissolve. Let it become distant. Enter the state fulfilled. Feel it as true. Sleep in it. And while you sleep, the law will work in silence. There is something you must understand before you give yourself to sleep tonight. You do not enter sleep empty. You carry someone with you. You carry a self. You carry an identity. You carry a feeling of, and the self you take into sleep is the self. The subconscious receives. This is why the night is so powerful, and also why it must be guarded. Most men do not realize what they are doing at the threshold of sleep. They think they are merely tired. They think they are simply ending the day. They think sleep is a blank space, a pause between one struggle and the next. But I tell you, the last identity you accept before sleep is not a small matter. It is a seed, it is an instruction, it is a silent command given to the depths of your being. The self you take into sleep is the self the subconscious receives. If you take the poor self into sleep, the subconscious receives poverty. If you take the abandoned self into sleep, the subconscious receives abandonment. If you take the trapped self into sleep, the subconscious receives bondage. If you take the fearful self into sleep, the subconscious receives fear. If you take the waiting self into sleep, the subconscious receives delay. And because the subconscious is faithful, it begins to build a world that corresponds to the self you have brought into its chamber. This is the tragedy of unconscious sleep. Men and women lie down each night and unknowingly hand the old self to the creative power within. They rehearse problems, they count failures, they imagine rejection, they fear tomorrow, they repeat old identity. Then they fall asleep and call it rest. But it is not rest in the true sense. It is repetition. It is the old man being carried into the womb of night and born again in the morning. A man lies down and says within himself, I do not know how I will manage. He may not speak the words aloud, but he feels them. His body tightens, his mind searches, his breath grows shallow. He sees the same obligations, the same numbers, the same lack. He sleeps, and the subconscious, receiving that state, begins to arrange another day in which poverty is confirmed, not because God has cursed him, not because life is against him, but because the self he took into sleep was the self of lack. A woman lies down and remembers silence. She hears again the words that were not spoken. She imagines being ignored. She sees herself as unwanted. She repeats, perhaps without words, I am not chosen, I am alone, I am forgotten. She sleeps as the abandoned, and the subconscious receives that self and brings forth circumstances, moods, and echoes that correspond to abandonment. Then she wakes and says, see, it is true, but it was not truth, it was seed. Another lies down feeling trapped. He thinks of duties, limitations, doors that seem closed, years that seem wasted. He sees no way. He calls the visible world final. He sleeps as the trapped one, and the subconscious receives bondage as instruction. Another lies down afraid of tomorrow, afraid of a letter, afraid of a conversation, afraid of the body, afraid of time. He sleeps as the fearful one, and fear, accepted in the deep, becomes the pattern through which tomorrow is met. Another sleeps as the one waiting. This is a very subtle state. He may know the law. He may say he believes in imagination. He may even repeat noble words. But as he drifts into sleep, the feeling is still, not yet. He sleeps as the one who has not received. He sleeps as the one who hopes tomorrow may bring what tonight he refuses to possess inwardly. And the subconscious receives waiting. Then life gives him more waiting, for every state must express itself. Do you see now why the same life repeats? It is not only what men do in the day, it is what they become at night. They take the same self to bed, and the same self rises in the morning. The poor one sleeps, and the poor one wakes. The abandoned one sleeps, and the abandoned one wakes. The trapped one sleeps, and the trapped one wakes. The fearful one sleeps, and the fearful one wakes. The waiting one sleeps, and the waiting one wakes. And then man says, nothing changes. But he has not changed the one who enters sleep. If you would change reality, you must change the self that crosses the threshold. You must not take the old self to bed. You must let him fall away before sleep. You must remove the old garment and put on the new. This is not a poetic saying. It is practical law. The identity accepted before sleep is impressed deeply. Therefore, choose that identity deliberately. Tonight you are not to sleep as the poor one. You are to sleep as the supplied one. Do not ask first whether the world has confirmed your supply. That is the old way. The world follows. You enter the state first. You feel yourself already provided for. You let the body know the relief of enough. You let the mind rest from its calculations. You let the heart feel the quiet dignity of one whose needs are met. Then you sleep, not hoping for supply, but sleeping in supply. The world must follow the state. Tonight, you are not to sleep as the abandoned one. You are to sleep as the chosen one. Do not wait for another voice to give you permission to feel chosen. Do not wait for a letter, a message, a sign, a look. You hear inwardly what you would hear if love was sure. You feel the warmth of being remembered. You feel the steadiness of being held in the mind and heart of another. You let the body relax as one who does not need to chase affection. Then you sleep as the chosen one. The subconscious receives chosen, and life must echo it. Tonight you are not to sleep as the trapped one. You are to sleep as the free one. Do not count the walls before sleep. Do not rehearse the obligations as though they were chains forged by eternity. Do not lie down repeating, "There is no way." Instead, enter the feeling of release. Feel the open air of freedom. Feel the inner movement of one whose way is already made. Imagine a moment that implies freedom, walking with ease, breathing without pressure, hearing the words, "You are free now," or simply resting with no burden on the chest. Then sleep as the free one. Not because the senses have already reported freedom, but because consciousness is cause. Tonight, you are not to sleep as the fearful one. You are to sleep as the safe one. Let the fear be old news. Let the body soften. Let the breath descend. Let the nervous system receive a new command. I am safe. I am held. I am guided. All is well. Do not say these words as a desperate plea. Say them as a return to truth. Feel the bed beneath you as a symbol of support. Feel the night around you, not as danger, but as shelter. Feel that unseen intelligence is arranging what you cannot arrange. Then sleep as the safe one. Tonight you are not to sleep as the waiting one. You are to sleep as the fulfilled one. This may be the greatest shift of all. The waiting self is so familiar that many mistake it for humility. They say, "I am waiting for my good." But waiting, when accepted as identity, creates more waiting. To sleep as the fulfilled one is to stop postponing the inner experience. It is to feel now what you thought the future would give you. It is to accept the end within. It is to say, not with noise, but with feeling, "It is done. I have received. I sleep in the end." The self you take into sleep is the self the subconscious receives. So pause before you sleep and ask, "Who am I taking into the deep tonight?" This one question can change everything. Am I taking the one who lacks? Am I taking the one who is rejected? Am I taking the one who waits? Am I taking the one who says the world must change before I can be new? Or am I taking the one who has already received? Am I taking the one who is supplied, chosen, healed, guided, free, and fulfilled? Do not answer with words alone. Answer with state. The old self may try to follow you into sleep. He has done so for many nights. He knows. He says, "Remember the problem." He says, "What if tomorrow is difficult?" He says, "Look at what happened." He says, "You cannot really be different." But you do not need to fight him. You simply do not take him with you. You let him stand at the threshold. You say inwardly, "You are not the self I sleep as tonight." You may imagine it as changing garments. During the day, perhaps you wore the garment of anxiety. Perhaps it clung to you. Perhaps you forgot you were wearing it. But at night, before sleep, you remove it. You do not sleep in a garment you no longer choose. You put on the garment of fulfillment. You put on the garment of peace. You put on the garment of being supplied. You put on the garment of being chosen. You put on the garment of freedom. Then you enter sleep, clothed in the new man. Scripture speaks of putting off the old man and putting on the new. This is not history. It is not distant theology. It is the nightly art of creation. The old man is a state. The new man is a state. You take off one and put on another by assumption. You do not wait until the world changes to put on the new. You put on the new and the world changes. Let me give you an image. Suppose a king were traveling in disguise and had forgotten who he was. If he slept each night as a beggar, trembling and expecting rejection, his conduct would follow that state. Men would respond. But if one night he remembered, "I am king," and slept in the dignity of his true station, something in him would change before the world changed. His voice would change, his bearing would change, his expectations would change. Then the world would begin to respond differently. The crown first appears within, so it is with you. Do not sleep as the beggar of your own desire. Do not sleep as the one asking life for scraps. Do not sleep as the one waiting outside the door. Sleep as the one who has entered. Sleep as the one who belongs. Sleep as the one who is already in possession. This does not mean you must force a grand emotion. Often the fulfilled self is very quiet. He is not frantic. He does not shout. He does not need to convince anyone. The supplied self feels relief. The chosen self feels warmth. The free self feels space. The healed self feels ease. The fulfilled self feels finality. These feelings may be gentle. A calm assumption can create more than an anxious declaration. Before sleep, choose a simple feeling that belongs to the new self. If you are becoming the supplied one, feel relief. If you are becoming the chosen one, feel security. If you are becoming the healed one, feel ease. If you are becoming the free one, feel lightness. If you are becoming the fulfilled one, feel quiet completion. Let that feeling spread slowly through the body. Let it become the last identity of the night. Do not take the old conversations to bed. Do not lie down arguing with imaginary people. Do not rehearse what you should have said. Do not imagine rejection and call it preparation. Do not count failures like beads of a prayer. Do not picture tomorrow as another battlefield. These are not harmless habits, they are creative acts. They are the old self asking to be born again. Instead, revise before sleep. If the day gave you a scene you do not wish to continue, change it. Hear different words, see a different outcome, feel a different ending. If you felt rejected, revise it into being received. If you felt afraid, revise it into being safe. If you felt defeated, revise it into fulfillment. Then do not sleep in the wound, sleep in the revision. Sleep as the one who has been restored. The subconscious receives the self you bring, not the self you merely wish you were. Therefore, become the self before sleep, even if only for a few moments. Enter the feeling, wear the garment, speak from it inwardly. Let the new identity have the final word. I am the supplied one. I am the chosen one. I am the healed one. I am the free one. I am the fulfilled one. Let these not be affirmations of lack, but statements of being. Do not say them as one trying to become. Say them as one entering the state now. Feel the difference between I hope to be supplied and I am supplied. Feel the difference between I want to be chosen and I am chosen. Feel the difference between I will be free and I am free. The subconscious receives the present state. It knows the language of being. Give it being. The world may still show old evidence tomorrow. Do not be disturbed. You are changing the route. The old self may still appear in thoughts. Do not be disturbed. You are learning not to sleep as him. With each night that you choose the new self, you weaken the old pattern. With each night that you sleep in fulfillment, you impress the deep more strongly. With each night that you refuse to take the old identity into sleep, you begin to wake in another world. One night of this, truly felt, can change the course of events. Many nights of this can change the entire concept of self. And when self changes, reality must change. For your world is not arranged around what you desire from afar. It is arranged around what you are conscious of being. So tonight, take this seriously, but gently. Do not strain. Do not make it a heavy duty. Simply remember the threshold. As you approach sleep, ask, who am I now? If the answer is the old self, do not condemn yourself. Choose again. Turn from the problem to the end. Turn from waiting to receiving. Turn from fear to safety. Turn from lack to supply. Turn from abandonment to being chosen. Then let sleep take you. Let sleep receive the new self. Let sleep carry the state into the deep. Let the subconscious be instructed not by your old wounds, but by your fulfilled identity. For the self you take into sleep is the self the subconscious receives, and the self the subconscious receives is the self the world will begin to reveal. Tonight, do not take the old self to bed. Let him end at the threshold. Enter sleep as the one who has received, and let the new reality be born from the new self you dare to become. Now that you know you must not take the old self into sleep, you must learn what to give to the new self. You must learn how to define the end. For many who sincerely practice imagination fail at this simple point. They imagine the battle, they imagine the struggle, they imagine the process, they imagine trying to make it happen, and then they wonder why they remain in the state of effort, waiting, and uncertainty. Do not imagine the battle, imagine the victory already accepted. This is one of the clearest instructions I can give you. If you desire to create reality, do not go into imagination to rehearse the difficulty. Do not go into the silence to picture yourself struggling toward the desire. Do not enter the state akin to sleep and imagine yourself explaining, pleading, arguing, convincing, searching, fixing, or waiting. That is not the end. That is still the old world. That is still the state of not having. Imagination creates according to the state you occupy. If you imagine trying, you plant trying. If you imagine waiting, you plant waiting. If you imagine persuading someone, you plant the state of not yet being received. If you imagine solving, you plant the state of still having a problem. If you imagine struggling, you plant struggle. The subconscious does not say, this person is imagining the process. It receives the state you feel. If the state is struggle, struggle is the seed. Therefore, you must choose the end. The end is the moment after the desire is fulfilled. The end is the quiet scene that implies it is done. The end is not the road. The end is arrival. The end is not begging for the answer. The end is after the answer has been given. The end is not hoping for the yes. The end is after the yes has been received. The end is not fighting for healing. The end is after the body feels whole. The end is not chasing money. The end is after supply is natural. The end is not trying to repair love. The end is after reconciliation has already occurred. The end is not pushing against a closed door. The end is after the door has opened and you are already beyond it. This is the art of defining the end. You must ask yourself, what would be true if my desire were already fulfilled? Not, how will I get there? Not, who must move? Not, what must happen first? Not, how shall the world be forced into agreement? These questions belong to the mind that still worships the process. The awakened imagination asks only, what scene would imply completion? If you desired financial freedom, do not imagine yourself begging for help. Do not imagine yourself counting lack with trembling hands. Do not imagine yourself trying to find the answer. Imagine the moment after. See yourself calmly placing a paid receipt upon the table. Feel the relief of a settled matter. Hear someone say, it is all taken care of. Feel your own breath soften because the pressure has lifted. That is the end. If you desired healing, do not imagine fighting illness. Do not imagine examining symptoms with fear. Do not imagine asking whether you are improving. Imagine the moment after health has returned. Feel yourself moving with ease. Hear someone remark how well you look. Feel gratitude, not as a technique, but as the natural fragrance of wholeness. Let the body in imagination be the body already restored. That is the end. If you desired reconciliation, do not imagine arguing your case. Do not imagine explaining yourself over and over. Do not imagine waiting by the door of another's heart. Imagine after reconciliation. Feel the warmth of peace between you. Hear the voice, not distant but near, saying something ordinary. Feel the relationship has already softened, already healed, already safe. That is the end. If you desired a door to open, do not imagine standing outside it in frustration. Do not imagine knocking desperately. Do not imagine someone deciding whether you are worthy. Imagine after the door has opened. Feel yourself walking through. Feel the floor beneath your feet on the other side. Hear the words of welcome. See the scene that would be natural if the way were already made. That is the end. Do not imagine the battle. Imagine the victory already accepted. This does not mean that the bridge will not include movement. Life may still move through a series of events. People may still speak. Letters may arrive. Circumstances may shift. You may be moved to act. But you do not build the bridge by imagining the struggle. The bridge is built by the subconscious once the end is accepted. Your task is not to arrange the means. Your task is to occupy the fulfilled state. The means are contained in the end, just as the tree is contained in the seed. Man fails because he thinks he must help the law by imagining the process. He thinks, I must see every step. I must picture the conversation. I must rehearse the effort. I must plan the route. But this is often only fear disguised as responsibility. It is the conscious mind trying to control what belongs to a deeper intelligence. And because he gives so much attention to the process, he never enters the end. He remains on the road. He remains outside the door. He remains in the courtroom, pleading his case. He remains in the state of trying. Trying is not having, waiting is not receiving, convincing is not being chosen, solving is not being free. Struggling is not fulfillment. You must learn to identify these states the moment they appear in imagination. If you close your eyes and find yourself explaining, stop gently. Explanation implies the matter is not settled. If you find yourself chasing, stop gently. Chasing implies distance. If you find yourself begging, stop gently. Begging implies lack. If you find yourself watching for signs, stop gently. Watching implies uncertainty. Return to the end. The end is simple. The end is often quiet. The end is the relief after the thing is done. This is why a short scene is better than a long drama. The longer you make the scene, the more opportunities the mind has to include doubt, process, and effort. But one simple act that implies fulfillment can carry the whole desire. A handshake, a smile, a letter, a sentence, a receipt, a key, a calm breath, a familiar room, a voice saying, "It worked out," a feeling of lying down. One small scene, if it implies the end, is enough. Now I want you to feel the difference between process and fulfillment. Suppose you desire an answer. If you imagine waiting for the answer, you feel suspense. That is not the end. If you imagine asking for the answer again and again, you feel need. That is not the end. If you imagine someone deciding, you feel uncertainty. That is not the end. But if you imagine holding the letter and smiling because the answer is yes, then you are after the answer. If you hear the words, "Yes, it is done," and feel the body relax, then you are after the answer. That is where you must live. Suppose you desire freedom. If you imagine yourself fighting chains, the chains remain the focus. If you imagine yourself trying to escape, escape is still unfinished. If you imagine yourself looking for the way out, you are still inside the old condition. But if you imagine yourself walking in open air, feeling light, breathing deeply, knowing the matter is behind you, then you are after freedom. That is the end. Suppose you desire wealth. If you imagine trying to become wealthy, you are still the one without. If you imagine laboring anxiously for money, you plant labor and anxiety. If you imagine asking who will give it to you, you are still outside possession. But if you imagine paying with ease, giving with joy, resting with security, hearing someone congratulate you on your prosperity, then you are after wealth. That is the end. The end is not always spectacular. In fact, the truest end often feels ordinary. If the desire were truly fulfilled, you might not be shouting. You might simply be calm. You might be relieved. You might feel the quiet normality of having. This is important because many people search for intense emotion and miss the deeper feeling of fulfillment. The fulfilled state often feels like peace. It feels like ease. It feels like naturalness. It feels like, of course, this is my life now. That feeling is powerful. The subconscious is not impressed by drama, it is impressed by acceptance. A simple, natural scene accepted as true has more creative power than a grand mental performance filled with strain. So when you define the end, do not ask what scene will be most impressive. Ask what scene would be natural if it were already done. That is the correct scene. A man who has received good news does not always tremble with excitement. He may simply fold the letter, place it on the table, and smile. A woman whose burden has been lifted may simply exhale and close her eyes in gratitude. A person who is loved may simply feel safe enough to rest. A person who is supplied may simply go through the day without fear. These simple feelings are often the deepest evidence of the fulfilled state. Now, before sleep, you must define your end so clearly that the mind has no need to wander through the battle. Do not enter the night uncertain. Do not lie down and say, "I will just imagine something." Choose. Choose one small scene that implies completion. Choose it before the body becomes too drowsy. Hold it gently. Then, when the state akin to sleep comes, enter that scene as though it were happening now. Do not watch it from outside. Do not see yourself as a figure in a picture. Be there. See through your own eyes. Hear with your own ears. Feel with your own hands. If the scene contains a letter, feel the paper. If it contains a hand, feel the warmth. If it contains a room, feel yourself in that room. If it contains a voice, hear it near you. If it contains only relief, let it be immediate, let it be present, let it be yours. And remember, the scene must happen after the desire is fulfilled, after the answer, after the yes, after the healing, after the money, after the reconciliation, after the door has opened, after the burden has been lifted, after the old story has ended. This word after is very important. The mind wants to imagine before. It wants to stand before the event, waiting, hoping, wondering. When you stand in the end, the entire bridge is implied. You do not need to know how you got there. If you are there in imagination, the law must build the way in fact. This is what I did when I desired to go to Barbados. I did not lie in New York, imagining the struggle to find money. I did not imagine myself persuading anyone to help me. I did not imagine checking ships and calculating impossibilities. I slept in Barbados. I felt myself there. I saw the world from And the means came, the ticket came, the path formed. But the path was not my concern. My concern was the end. That is the pattern. If you desire the thing, sleep in the end of it. If you desire the answer, sleep after it. If you desire freedom, sleep from freedom. If you desire love, sleep as the loved one. If you desire supply, sleep as the supplied one. If you desire healing, sleep as the healed one. Do not sleep as one asking. Sleep as one saying, "It has happened." Do not sleep as one trying to persuade life. Sleep as one who has accepted life's agreement. Do not sleep as one standing outside the gate. Sleep as one already within the city. Now, if the mind returns to the battle, do not be disturbed. Simply notice and redirect. If you find yourself imagining the difficult conversation, return to the loving resolution. If you find yourself imagining the problem, return to the relief. If you find yourself imagining the waiting, return to the fulfilled moment. This redirection is not failure, it is training. You are teaching consciousness where to dwell. The old man loves the battle because the battle preserves him. The old identity needs the struggle to remain alive. The poor self wants to imagine chasing supply. The abandoned self wants to imagine begging for love. The trapped self wants to imagine fighting the walls. The fearful self wants to imagine defending against danger. But the new self has no need of the battle. The new self lives after. The new self is already in possession. So tonight, before you sleep, let the old battle end. Do not carry it into the deep. Do not give the subconscious images of conflict and call it prayer. Do not hand the creative power a scene of effort and expect it to produce rest. Give it rest. Give it completion. Give it the end. Perhaps your scene is as simple as hearing, "It all worked out." That one sentence, if truly heard from within the fulfilled state, can contain the whole desire. Do not ask who said it. Do not ask how it worked out. Hear it as fact. Feel the relief. Let the body accept it. Perhaps your scene is holding a letter with good news. You do not need to read every word. You only need to know, as you hold it, that the answer is favorable. Feel the paper. See your hands. Let a smile rise because the matter is finished. Perhaps your scene is seeing a bill marked paid in full. Do not imagine how the money came. See the end, paid in full. Feel the release in the chest. Let the shoulders drop. Let the old pressure dissolve. Perhaps your scene is being embraced by someone with whom there is now peace. Do not imagine the argument. Do not imagine the apology in detail if it draws you back into pain. Imagine after the healing. Feel the warmth. Hear a simple, ordinary phrase. Feel that the distance is gone. Perhaps your scene is waking in the morning with a quiet sense that all is well. The desire has become so natural that you do not even need excitement. You simply wake in peace. That too can be the end. The scene does not need to impress another person. It only needs to imply fulfillment to you. This is important. Choose a scene that you can believe emotionally, not because it is small, but because it carries the tone of reality. If a grand scene feels distant and theatrical, choose a quieter one. If seeing a vast change feels strained, choose a simple consequence of the change. The subconscious receives the feeling of truth. Therefore, choose a scene that lets you feel the end. Once chosen, repeat it gently in the state akin to sleep, not like a machine, not as a forced exercise. Let it move through you like a lullaby. See it, feel it, allow it, rest in it. If you fall, sleep has taken the seed. If the scene fades into feeling, that is also good. Feeling is the secret. The scene is only the cup. The feeling is the wine. Do not imagine the battle. Imagine the victory already accepted. Let these words become law within you. The battle belongs to the old state. The victory belongs to the new. The battle keeps you in separation. The victory places you in possession. The battle asks, how? The victory says, it is done. The victory rests. The battle waits. The victory receives. And because consciousness is the only cause, you must choose the state of victory before the senses report victory. You must dare to accept the end in imagination. You must dare to sleep after the fulfilled desire. Then the world will begin to move, not because you forced it, but because you occupied the state that requires it. Tonight, define the end. Do not define the problem. Do not define the struggle. Do not define the end. What would you hear after it is done? What would you see after it is done? What would you touch after it is done? What would you feel after it is done? What would be ordinary after it is done? What would you no longer worry about after it is done? Answer those questions gently, and you will find your scene. Then take that scene into sleep. Let the outer world lose its voice. Let the battle fade. Let the fulfilled state become the only reality that matters. Sleep after the answer. Sleep after the yes. Sleep after the healing. Sleep after the supply. Sleep after the reconciliation. Sleep after the door has opened. Sleep after the victory. For in imagination, the end is available now, and what you accept as real in imagination must, in its appointed way, become real in the world of form. One seed is enough. I want you to understand this deeply, because the mind loves to complicate what the law has made simple. Man hears that imagination creates reality, and immediately he tries to build an entire world in his head. He imagines the beginning, the middle, the explanation, the conversations, the obstacles, the solutions, the people, the dates, the methods, the signs. He makes a long mental drama, and by the end of it he is tired, confused, and often farther from the end than when he began. But the law does not require a long story. The law requires a state, and one scene, if felt as real, contains the entire bridge. Think of a seed. A seed is small. You can hold it between two fingers. It does not look like a tree. It does not show you the branches, the leaves, the fruit, the shade, the birds that may rest in it, or the hands that may one day gather from it. And yet the entire tree is hidden within the seed. The seed does not need to explain the tree. The seed contains it. In the same way, one simple imaginal scene, if it implies the wish fulfilled, contains the whole bridge of incidents by which it will come into your world. You do not have to imagine the whole path. You only have to plant the right seed. This is why I tell you to choose one scene: short, sensory, first person, repeatable, emotionally clear, after fulfillment, natural. That is enough. Short, because the mind cannot carry a long drama into sleep without wandering into effort. Short, because the subconscious is impressed by clarity, not length. Short, because a single act that implies completion is more powerful than 100 images that imply trying. Sensory, because imagination must feel like experience. If you hear a voice, hear it close. If you hold a letter, feel the paper. If you touch a hand, feel its warmth. If you walk through a room, feel the floor beneath your feet. The senses of imagination are the language of the inner world. The outer senses report what has hardened, but the inner senses create what will harden. First person, because you are not to watch yourself receiving, you are to receive. Do not see yourself from across the room as though you were an actor upon a stage. Be in the scene. See from your own eyes, hear from your own ears, feel from within your own body. If you imagine a handshake, do not watch two people shaking hands. Feel the pressure of the hand in yours. If you imagine a letter, do not see yourself holding it from afar. Look down at it as though it is in your own hands now. If you imagine a home, do not see your body walking through it like a picture. Walk through it as the resident. Repeatable, because before sleep the mind is soft and simple. Rhythm helps the state deepen. You do not need a complex story. You need a scene that can be entered again and again gently, like a quiet wave coming to shore. The same words, the same feeling, the same end. Each repetition presses the seed more deeply into the soil, emotionally clear. Because the subconscious receives feeling as fact, the seed must carry a definite feeling: relief, peace, gratitude, certainty, naturalness, fulfillment. Do not choose a scene that leaves you wondering what it means. Choose one that immediately tells your inner being, it is done. After fulfillment, because the end is the creative state, not. You are not imagining the wish being considered. You are imagining it granted. You are not imagining yourself asking. You are imagining yourself having received. You are not imagining the door being debated. You are imagining yourself already through the door. Natural, because what feels natural belongs to you. Do not force a scene that feels theatrical, strained, or impossible to enter. Choose something simple enough that the feeling can settle. A quiet smile may be more powerful than a dramatic celebration. A single sentence may be more convincing than 1,000 images. The feeling of normal completion is often the deepest creative command. One scene, if felt as real, contains the entire bridge. Let me show you how simple this may be. You may hear someone say, "It all worked out." That is all. Just that one sentence. You hear it as though spoken by a familiar voice, in an ordinary tone, after the matter is. You do not ask how it worked out. You do not ask when. You do not demand details. The sentence implies the end. If it all worked out, then the problem is no longer the problem. The bridge is already contained in those words. Hear them. Feel the relief. Sleep in them. Or you may imagine holding a letter with good news. You do not need to read every line. Perhaps you see only the first sentence. Perhaps you simply know as you hold it that the answer is yes. Feel your eyes moving over the page. Feel the smile beginning before you even finish reading. The letter is not the cause. The imaginal act is the cause. The letter is your seed. If it implies fulfillment, it is enough. Or you may feel a handshake of congratulations. Do not imagine the struggle that came before it. Do not imagine the interviews, the waiting, the uncertainty, the asking. Feel the hand in yours after success has occurred. Hear the words congratulations. Feel the warmth of the other person's palm. Hear the sincerity in the voice. Let the body receive the dignity of accomplishment. One handshake, if entered fully, can contain the whole journey. Or you may see a bill paid in full. Simple, quiet, final, no drama, no explanation. You see the words paid in full. You feel the release in your chest. You know that the pressure has ended. You may place the paper down gently. You may exhale. You may feel the shoulder. That one scene contains the bridge to financial resolution because it implies the end. Do not imagine counting the money. Do not imagine worrying over the amount. Do not imagine begging for help. See it paid. Feel it done. That is enough. Or you may walk through a home already yours, not searching for it, not asking whether you may have it, not standing outside the door, admiring it from a distance. Walk inside. Feel yourself there as the one who belongs. Touch, feel the key already in your possession. Look through the window as the resident, not the visitor. If the home is yours in imagination, the bridge to the home is contained in that state. Or you may hear someone say, "I knew it would happen for you." That one sentence carries the end. It implies that the thing has happened. It implies that others now know it. It implies that you are no longer waiting. Hear the tone. Feel the warmth. Allow the words to land in you. Let them quiet the old doubt. The voice may be a friend, a family member, someone you trust, or simply a voice that feels natural. Do not make it elaborate. The sentence is enough. Or you may imagine waking with peace. This is a beautiful scene, because many desires, when fulfilled, would first be known by the absence of tension. You wake, and there is no dread, no knot in the stomach, no pressure in the chest, no racing thought. You open your eyes and feel the day is light. You are no longer being chased by the old problem. This too is a fulfilled scene. Sometimes peace is the clearest proof that the end has been accepted. Do you see how simple it is? The mind will say, "But surely I must do more." No, more is often the problem. More scenes, more details, more effort, more checking, more forcing, more mental noise. But the law is not strengthened by complication. The law is strengthened by acceptance. Once, if you plant an apple seed, you do not also plant the branches, the blossoms, the fruit, and the shade. You trust the seed to contain the pattern. Likewise, if you plant the scene of fulfillment, you do not need to plant the bridge. You do not need to plant the how. You do not need to plant the conversations that will lead to it, the people who will move, the events that will shift, the timing that will unfold. All of that is contained in the seed of the end. This is where many interfere. They plant one seed at night, and then they spend the next day trying to dig into the soil and arrange the roots. They ask, "How will it happen? Who will do it? What if it must come this way? What if it does not?" But the seed knows the tree. The end knows the bridge. Your subconscious, once impressed, knows how to move the world. It does not need your anxious supervision. It needs your faithful assumption. Do not create long mental movies. A long movie often draws you back into process. You begin with fulfillment, but soon the mind says, "Let us imagine how we got there." Then you are in the struggle again. You begin imagining what must be said, who must be convinced, what obstacle must be overcome, what explanation must be given. Without knowing it, you have left the end. You are back in the battle. The feeling becomes effort. The scene becomes work. And the subconscious receives work. Do not imagine the process. The process belongs to the bridge of incidents. It is not your concern. Your concern is the fulfilled end. If you desire a healed relationship, do not imagine the long conversation unless the conversation itself is clearly after fulfillment and full of peace. Do not rehearse arguments in the name of manifestation. Do not imagine explaining your worth. Do not imagine persuading someone to love you. That is not love fulfilled. That is separation continued. Imagine after love has returned. Imagine the natural peace between you. Imagine the ordinary warmth of already being together in harmony. Do not imagine from outside the body. This is a common error. A person closes the eyes and sees a picture of himself happy, successful, loved, wealthy, free, but he sees it like a spectator. He watches himself in the scene rather than living from it. This keeps the desire slightly separate. It is still over there, but creation requires identification. You must enter the scene. You must feel yourself to be the one in possession. If you see yourself from outside, gently move inside. If you imagine yourself holding good news, become the one whose hands are holding it. If you imagine yourself in a room, look out from your own eyes. If you imagine being congratulated, hear the voice directed to you. If you imagine waking with peace, feel the peace in your own body. Do not create complicated stories. Complexity is often doubt, seeking control. The anxious mind wants to arrange every detail because it does not trust the law. It says, I must know exactly how this will unfold. But the conscious mind cannot know the bridge in advance. It sees too little. The subconscious sees connections beyond reason. It moves through channels you do not know exist. Therefore, a complicated story is not necessary. It may even be a hindrance because it fixes your attention on the means instead of the end. Do not try to force vividness. This is important. Some think the scene must be bright, sharp, and perfect, like an outer event. They strain to see colors, faces, rooms, and objects with great clarity. Then they become frustrated because the image is not vivid enough. But vividness is not primarily visual. Vividness is reality of feeling. A dim scene felt as true is more powerful than a bright scene felt as fantasy. If the picture is faint but the relief is real, the scene is alive. If the image is simple, but the state is accepted, the seed is planted. Feeling is the life of the scene. A scene without feeling is like a body without breath. It may have shape, but it does not live. A simple scene with feeling has blood in it. It carries conviction. It impresses the subconscious. So when you choose your one scene, do not ask only, can I see it? Ask, can I feel it as true? Can I feel the relief? Can I feel the naturalness? Can I feel the end implied by this small act? If yes, that scene is enough. One scene, if felt as real, contains the entire bridge. Let us imagine, softly, how you might use this tonight. You lie down, the day has ended. The body is growing heavy. The outer world is losing its voice. You do not bring 10 scenes. You do not bring a long story. You bring one seed. Perhaps the seed is the voice saying, it all worked out. You let the words carry their meaning. It all worked out. The body responds. The breath softens. The old tension loosens. You are no longer in the problem. You are after it. Then the mind may wander. It may say, but how did it work out? You do not follow. You return to the seed. It all worked out. Feel it. Let it be true. Let it become ordinary. Let it be the last impression. Or perhaps your seed is a letter. You hold it. You see enough to know it is good. You smile softly. You read one line. Or perhaps you do not read any line at all. You simply know. The answer is favorable. The matter is settled. The end has come. You feel relief. That is the scene. Stay there. Do not imagine what came before. Do not imagine what you must do next. Stay after fulfillment. Or perhaps your seed is waking with peace. You feel yourself in the morning, but not the old morning. A new morning. You wake and the body feels you are free. You are held. Nothing is chasing you. You open your eyes with calm. That calm is the scene. You can repeat it gently. Waking with peace. Waking fulfilled. Waking as one who has received. If the desire is very great, the scene may feel too simple. The mind may say, can one little scene really contain all of this? Yes, because it is not the size of the scene that matters. It is the state implied by the scene. A wedding ring, a receipt can imply a debt resolved. A handshake can imply success. A quiet breath can imply freedom. A single sentence can imply an entire life changed. The symbol is small, but the state is complete. Do not underestimate what is implied. Implication is one of the great secrets of imagination. You need not show the whole event if your scene implies it. If someone congratulates you, then success must have occurred. If a bill is paid in full, then supply must. If you are walking through the home as your own, then the home is yours. If you hear, I knew it would happen for you, then it has happened. If you wake in peace, then the burden has been lifted. The scene is small, but the implication is vast. This is why one seed is enough. Now, as you practice, do not become rigid. The purpose is not to obey a formula anxiously. The purpose is to enter the state. If your scene naturally changes slightly while keeping the same end, do not be. If the voice sounds different, if the room is not clear, if the image softens into feeling, it is all well. The essential thing is that you remain after fulfillment. The essential thing is that the feeling is real. The essential thing is that you are in the scene from within. If you begin to force, soften. If you begin to complicate, simplify. If you begin to watch from outside, enter. If you begin to imagine the process, return to the end. If you begin to chase vivid, this is the gentle discipline. Remember that the scene is not magic in itself. The scene is a doorway into state. The purpose of the scene is to help you feel what would be true if your desire were fulfilled. Once you feel that state, the scene has done its work. You may even find that the scene fades and only the feeling remains. That is not failure. That is often the deepest point. The seed has released its life into the soil. As sleep comes, let it carry the feeling. Do not hold the scene with a clenched mind. Let it become soft. Let it become natural. Let it repeat itself with ease. If sleep takes you in the middle of it, wonderful. The seed has gone down into the deep. The subconscious has received the implication. And what it receives, it must outpicture. This is the art, one scene, one seed, one fulfilled state. Do not make it complex. Do not make it heavy. Do not make it a burden. The law is not honored by anxiety. You are not trying to impress the subconscious with effort. You are impressing it with reality. The scene must feel like a small piece of reality from the life you have chosen. So tonight, choose one. Only one is needed. One voice saying, "It all worked out." One letter with good news. One handshake of congratulations. One bill paid in full. One walk through the home already yours. One loving sentence, "I knew it would happen for you." One morning of enter it gently. Enter it from within. Enter it after fulfillment. Enter it with feeling. Enter it until it feels natural. Then rest. The bridge is not yours to build. The bridge is contained in the seed. The seed is your scene. The soil is the subconscious. The water is feeling. The night is the covering. Sleep is the silence in which it grows. And tomorrow, do not dig it up. Do not ask whether one scene was enough. Do not ask whether you did it perfectly. Do not ask whether the law heard you. The law does not hear noise. It receives state. If you felt the end, the seed was planted. If you slept in fulfillment, the deep received it. If you return to it with loyalty, the world must follow. One scene, if felt as real, contains the entire bridge. Let that free you from complication. Let that quiet the anxious mind. Let that make tonight simple. You do not need 1,000 images. You need one living seed. Plant it in the hour before sleep, and let the Lord do the rest. Now there is a point in this practice that appears small, and yet it changes everything. You must not watch yourself receive. You must receive. This is where many remain outside the very thing they desire. They close their eyes and imagine a picture of themselves. They see themselves happy, see themselves loved, see themselves with the letter, with the key, with the answer, with the success, with the healing. But they are watching from a distance. They are looking at the scene as though it were a play upon a stage. And because they are watching, they are still separate from it. The spectator desires, the participant possesses. Remember this, the spectator desires, the participant possesses. If you see yourself from the outside, there is still a division between you and the fulfilled state. There is the one watching and the one receiving. There is the observer and the person in the scene. That subtle separation keeps the desire over there, even if the image is beautiful. It may comfort you for a moment, but it does not place you fully in possession. To possess in imagination, you must see from the state, not at the state. You must look out through the eyes of the one who has received. This is why I have always said, enter the scene. Do not merely behold it. Wear it. Stand within it. Let it surround you. Let it become the place from which you are aware. The fulfilled desire must not be an object you admire. It must be the world you inhabit. If your scene is holding a letter with good news, do not imagine some version of yourself across the room holding it. Be the one whose hands are holding it now. Feel the paper between your fingers. Feel the slight bend of it. See the words from your own eyes. Let your gaze move over the page. Feel the breath in your body change as you understand that the answer is favorable. Do not watch. Feel your own smile begin from within. If your scene is hearing the words, "It all worked out," do not hear them as a distant sentence in a vague dream. Hear them in your ear. Let the voice be near. Let it have tone, warmth, familiarity. Hear the words as though someone standing beside you has spoken them directly to you. Let your body receive them. Let the chest soften. Let the belly release. Let the mind stop searching. Those words are not floating somewhere. They are entering you. They are spoken to you, here, now, in the fulfilled scene. If your scene is walking through a home already yours, do not look at yourself walking through the rooms. Walk. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Feel the weight of your body moving. See the walls from your own eyes. Touch the door frame. Feel the texture of it beneath your hand. Let the rooms be around you, not in front of you, as a picture. If you stand by a window, look out from within the home as one who belongs there. Do not admire it from outside. Live in it. If your scene is a handshake of congratulations, do not watch two hands meet. Feel the other hand in yours. Feel its warmth, its pressure, its living reality. Hear the person's voice near you saying, "Congratulations," or "I knew it would happen for you." Feel your own hand responding. Feel the dignity of being recognized. Feel the quiet certainty that the matter is accomplished. You are not watching a successful person. You are the successful one. If your scene is reconciliation, do not watch yourself being embraced as though from the ceiling of the room. Feel the arms around you. Feel the warmth of another body. Hear the breath, the softened voice, the nearness. Feel the release of old tension between you. Feel what it is like to no longer be outside love. Be inside the love. Be the one who is chosen. Be the one who no longer waits. If your scene is healing, do not watch a healthy version of yourself walk by like a stranger. Feel health from within. Feel ease in the body. Feel yourself moving freely. Feel your own breath in the fulfilled scene. Let the body in imagination be yours, not an image of another. Feel the relief of wholeness as a present inner fact. You are not admiring health. You are wearing it. If your scene is waking with peace, do not imagine a picture of yourself asleep in a bed. Feel yourself waking. Feel the pillow beneath your head. Feel the softness of the morning light. If morning is in your scene, feel the absence of dread in the body. Feel the first breath of the day as one who is safe, one who is free, one who has already received. The peace must be your peace. The breath must be your breath. The body must be your body. It is not complicated, it is natural. In ordinary life, you do not see yourself from across the room as you live. You see from where you are. You hear from where you are. You touch from where you are. You experience life from within. Therefore, when you imagine the wish fulfilled, imagine it as life, not as a picture to look at, but as a reality to inhabit. The spectator desires. The participant possesses. I want this sentence to sink into you. When you watch yourself receive, you often remain in desire. You are still saying, "I would like that to be me." But when you receive from within, you are saying without words, "This is me, this is mine, this is my state." The difference is subtle, but the subconscious knows it. The subconscious receives not the picture alone, but your position in relation to it. Are you outside longing, or are you inside possession? Many imagine in third person, because they have not yet dared to identify with the fulfilled self. They feel safer watching it. They feel less challenged by seeing it at a distance. But the law demands identification. You must become one with the state. To imagine properly is to enter union with the end. It is to take the fulfilled desire upon yourself as identity. This does not mean you must force vividness. It means you must shift position. Even if the image is not bright, experience it from within. A dim first-person feeling is more powerful than a clear third-person picture. It is not visual sharpness that creates, it is occupancy. It is possession, it is the feeling, "I am there, I am this, I have received." Now, if you find yourself watching from outside, do not be troubled. Simply move inward. Suppose you begin by seeing yourself holding a letter. Do not look down through your own eyes. Feel the letter in your own hand. Hear your own breath. Let the scene become immediate. The moment you move inside, the whole quality changes. It is no longer a picture of fulfillment. It is fulfillment experienced. Suppose you see yourself standing in a beautiful room. Do not remain outside looking at that figure. Become that figure. Feel the soles of your feet on the floor. Turn your head and see the room from within. Touch something. Hear the small sounds in the space. Let the room be yours because you are there, inside it. Suppose you see yourself receiving good news. Move into the one receiving. Feel the body's reaction. Feel the relief. Feel the sentence land in your own heart. This movement from outside to inside is the movement from desire to possession. The spectator desires, the participant possesses. This is why I often speak of thinking from the end, not merely think. To think of the end is to look at it. To think from the end is to stand within it and look outward from it. If you think of wealth, you may admire it from a distance. If you think from wealth, you feel the ease of being supplied and view the world through that ease. If you think of love, you may long for it. If you think from love, you feel chosen and view others from security. If you think of freedom, you may dream about escape. If you think from freedom, thinking from is first-person consciousness. It is the inner position of having, and your world always reflects the position you occupy. It does not reflect what you admire from afar. It reflects what you accept as self. Therefore, enter the end as self. Let me make this even more practical. Tonight, when you lie down and the body begins to grow still, choose your one scene. Then ask yourself gently, where am I in this scene? Ask, what would I see if I were actually there? Ask, what would I hear near me? Ask, what would I feel in my hands, under my feet, in my chest, in my breath? These questions bring you into possession. Do not make it a mental exercise. Let it be sensory and simple. Feel the paper in your hand, hear the voice in your ear, feel the floor beneath your feet, feel the warmth of another hand, feel your own breath in the fulfilled scene. They anchor you inside the imaginal act. They make the inner world a place you occupy, rather than a picture you observe. And once you are inside, let the feeling arise naturally. Do not force it. If the scene is truly after fulfillment, relief will come. If the scene implies being chosen, warmth will come. If the scene implies success, dignity will come. If the scene implies freedom, lightness will come. These feelings may be gentle, but they are the life of the scene. Now there is another reason first-person imagination is so powerful. When you enter the scene from within, the body begins to respond as though it were real. The breath changes, the muscles soften, the heart may warm, the face may relax, a smile may come without effort. This bodily response is not trivial. It shows that the state is being accepted. Your whole being begins to agree with the imagination. The subconscious receives this agreement more deeply than words alone. Words can lie. Images can be watched from afar. But felt participation tells the deep, this is happening to me now. That is why the participant possesses. When you participate, you cease to be divided. You are no longer a person wanting a state. You are the state expressing itself. You are no longer saying, may this happen to me. You are saying through experience, this is my reality. And what is real in imagination, if accepted and persisted in, must become real in form. Do not worry if the outer senses still report the old world. In the state akin to sleep, let them fade. You are training the inner senses. You are giving loyalty to the unseen. The outer eyes may have shown you lack, but the inner eyes can see supply. The outer ears may have heard silence, but the inner ear can hear the words of fulfillment. The outer hand may not yet hold the letter, but the imaginal hand can hold it now. The outer feet may not yet stand in the home, but the imaginal feet can walk there now. The outer breath may have been tight all day, but the breath in the fulfilled scene can become calm now. And because consciousness is the only cause, the inner experience is not less important than the outer. It is the beginning of the outer. This is where man must become bold. He must dare to enter a scene that the world has not yet confirmed. He must dare to feel it from within. This boldness is not noise. It is quiet. It is the inner willingness to possess before the senses agree. The spectator waits for the senses to grant permission. The participant takes possession in imagination. The spectator says, I will believe when I see. The participant says, I see from within, and the world must follow. The spectator looks at the fulfilled self as a future possibility. The participant becomes the fulfilled self now. The spectator remains outside the door. The participant walks in. So tonight, do not stand outside your own desire. Do not watch yourself receive love. Receive it. Do not watch yourself hold good news. Hold it. Do not watch yourself walk through the open door. Walk through it. Do not watch yourself healed. Feel wholeness. Do not watch yourself fulfilled. Be fulfilled. If your mind says, but it is only imagination, answer quietly, imagination is the cause. If it says, but I am only pretending, answer, I am entering the state. If it says, but the outer world has not changed, answer, the outer world follows. Then return to the scene from within. The scene does not need to be long. In fact, it should not be long. 1 or 2 seconds of true participation can do more than many minutes of watching. Feel the handshake, hear the word, see the letter, touch the wall, breathe the piece, repeat gently. Let it become natural. Let it lull you into sleep. And if you fall asleep in the middle of receiving, do not think you failed. That is success. Sleep has taken you while you were inside the fulfilled state. The last identity impressed upon the deep was not the longing spectator. That is powerful. Now, as you listen, begin to feel this shift even before you practice it. You are no longer looking at your desire from across a great distance. You are moving inside it. You are taking your rightful place within the fulfilled state. The old world may still be around you, but it is losing authority. The inner scene is becoming nearer. The end is becoming inhabited. The spectator desires. The participant possesses. Let this be your rule. Not watching, receiving, not observing, being, not thinking of, thinking from, not longing for the end, living in the end. This is first-person imagination. This is how the scene becomes real. This is how the subconscious is instructed. This is how the unseen begins to harden into fact. Enter the scene, feel it from within, and sleep as the one who has received. And now, as the night grows quiet around you, let us bring all of this into one final movement, not as a conclusion that ends the matter, but as a soft doorway through which you may pass into sleep. Do not listen now with effort. Do not try to remember every word. Let the words become atmosphere. Let them move around you like the stillness of a room after all lamps have been lowered. Let them enter gently, because what matters now is not information. You have heard that the world of the senses is not the master. You have heard that what the eyes show, what the ears report, what the hands touch, what the body feels, and what circumstances announce are not causes. They are effects. They are echoes. They are shadows. They are yesterday's imagination made visible. And if they are effects, then they do not deserve your worship. They do not deserve your fear. They do not deserve the final word in your heart before sleep. Tonight, you are not here to fight reality. You are here to stop obeying it. You may have obeyed it for years without knowing. You may have looked at the outer world and let it tell you who you are. You may have seen lack and called yourself poor. You may have heard silence and called yourself forgotten. You may have seen delay and called yourself denied. You may have felt fear and called it truth. You may have watched a door remain closed and decided life was against you. These were not final truths. They were states. And every state can be left. So leave the old state now, not with struggle, not with anger, not by forcing the mind into battle. Leave it as one leaves a garment at the end of a long day. You do not argue with the garment. You do not ask its permission. You simply take it off. Take off the old self that has been reacting to appearances. Take off the self that has been waiting. Take off the self that has been begging the Take off the self that has believed the shadow more than the light. That self has served its purpose. Tonight, it does not enter the deep with you. The self you take into sleep is the self the subconscious receives. Therefore, enter sleep as the one who has received. Enter sleep as the one already supplied. Enter sleep as the one already chosen. Enter sleep as the one already guided. Enter sleep as the one already free. Enter sleep as the one who no longer asks the outer world whether the inner act is true. Let the old reality be old news. Let it stand behind you like a letter already read, a story already finished, an echo already fading in the distance. What you see now is not always what is being born. What you see now is often only what has hardened from former states. It may appear solid, but solidity is not eternity. It is only assumption. And if an old assumption could harden into a fact, then a new assumption can harden into a new fact. This is the law. So do not take the old evidence into the night as prophecy. Do not say, because this is what I saw today, this is what must be tomorrow. No, tonight you withdraw your loyalty from the seen and give it to the unseen. Tonight you stop asking the mirror to change first. You change the face before the mirror. Tonight you stop waiting. You change the voice. Tonight you stop wrestling with the shadow. You turn to the light. Consciousness is the only cause. Say this not as a phrase to admire, but as a living truth to rest upon. Consciousness is the only cause. Your state is the seed of your world. The visible world is the confession of invisible consciousness. Change consciousness, and reality must change. It may move by a bridge you do not understand. It may come through ordinary events. It may arrive so naturally that others call it coincidence. But you will know. You will know that the inner state went first, and the world followed. Now, as you drift nearer to sleep, do not imagine the battle. Do not imagine trying. Do not imagine waiting. Do not imagine convincing. Do not imagine solving. Do not imagine struggling. The battle belongs to the old man. You are not the old man now. You are the one who has moved beyond the battle. After the healing, after the supply, after the reconciliation, after the door has opened, after the burden has been lifted, after the thing is done, do not imagine the battle. Imagine the victory already accepted. Let one scene be enough, one living seed, one small moment that implies completion. Perhaps you hear the words, "It all worked out." Perhaps you hold a letter with good news. Perhaps you feel a hand in yours. Perhaps you walk through a home already yours. Perhaps you hear someone say, "I knew it would happen for you." Perhaps you simply wake in peace, with no dread in the body, no pressure in the chest, no searching in the mind. One scene, if felt as real, contains the entire bridge. Do not make a long mental story. Do not tire the mind with too many details. Do not imagine yourself from outside as though watching a play. Enter the scene. Be the one. Hear the voice in your ear. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Feel the warmth of another hand. Feel your own breath in the fulfilled scene. The spectator desires, the participant possesses. So do not watch yourself receive. Receive, and above all, feel it. Feeling is the secret. Feeling gives the scene life. Feeling presses the seed into the soil. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. Feeling makes imagination flesh. A cold picture remains, a mechanical phrase remains on the surface. Words without feeling are like empty vessels, but one moment of felt reality can enter the deep and begin to clothe itself in fact. Feel relief, feel peace, feel safety, feel certainty, feel gratitude, feel quiet joy, feel naturalness. Do not force emotion. Do not demand intensity. Let the feeling arise naturally from the fulfilled scene. If it is the need to beg would leave, let them leave now. If it is done, what would enter your body? Peace would enter, safety would enter, gratitude would enter, quiet confidence would enter. Let them enter now. If you say, "I am free," feel relief. If you say, "It is done," feel finality. If you say, "I am safe," let the breath soften. If you say, "I have received," let gratitude rise. Do not say these things to make, and imagination is the beginning of the world. Now, if an appearance tries to return, do not fear it. Perhaps the mind remembers lack. Perhaps it remembers silence. Perhaps it remembers delay. Perhaps it remembers a closed door. Perhaps it remembers a symptom. Let the image come if it must, but do not accept its feeling. This is how you ignore reality correctly. To ignore reality is to refuse its feeling and choose the feeling of the end. You may see silence but feel chosen. You may see delay but feel fulfilled. You may see symptoms but feel whole. You may see a closed door but feel life opening. You are not denying the shadow. You are refusing to worship it. You can see the appearance without serving it. You can notice the fact without calling it final. You can hear the report without letting it name you. Tonight the old world loses its voice. The eyes close. The room fades. The reasoning mind becomes quiet. The senses weaken. The subconscious opens. The state akin to sleep comes gently, as it has come every night of your life. But tonight you use it consciously. Tonight you do not enter it with fear. Tonight you do not enter it with yesterday. Tonight you enter it with the end. Let the body relax now, not as one who has given up, but as one who knows. Let the hands unclench. A clenched hand can. Let the brow become smooth. Let the belly release. Let the breath go low and slow. Every softening of the body can become a sign of inner completion. You do not relax because you have abandoned your desire. You relax because you have accepted it. You relax because the creative act is done. It is done. Let those words be not anxious but final. Let them be not loud but deep. It is done. Not someday, not perhaps, not if the world. And what is done in consciousness must, in its own appointed way, clothe itself in the world of experience. All is well. Let that sentence move through you like warmth. All is well. Not because every outer fact has already changed before your eyes, but because you have changed the cause. All is well, because the seed is planted. All is well, because the bridge is forming. All is well, because the law works in silence. All is well, because imagination creates reality, and tonight you have chosen imagination over appearance. I am safe. Feel it, not as a plea but as a state. I am safe. I am held. I am guided. I am not alone in a hostile world. The power that creates my world is within me, as my own wonderful human imagination. I need not beg life. I need not chase shadows. I need not fear echoes. The how is not mine to force. The means are contained in the end. The seed knows the tree. The end knows the bridge. I am guided by an intelligence deeper than reason. I may sleep now. I may rest now. I may let the unseen do its perfect work. I am free. Feel this freedom softly, not the freedom of outer circumstances first, but the freedom of no longer obeying appearances. I am free from worshipping the senses. I am free from dragging yesterday into tomorrow. I am free from sleeping as the old self. I am free to assume. I am free to choose. I am free to feel from the end. The impossible is dissolving, not because you have fought it, but because you have stopped feeding it. The impossible was never a wall in the world. It was an old assumption repeated long enough to feel natural. Tonight, that assumption is losing life. The old state is gone. The thing that once felt distant begins to feel near. The thing that once felt impossible begins to feel ordinary. And when the impossible stops feeling impossible within you, it must begin to move without you. The old state is gone. Let it go. The state of waiting, the state of fear, the state of lack, the state of rejection, the state of struggle, the state of checking, the state of reacting. Let it go. You do not need to carry it into sleep. You do not need to explain it. It was only a garment. It was only a state. And every state can be left. The new state is natural. Let it become simple. Let fulfillment feel ordinary. Let being supplied feel ordinary. Let being chosen feel ordinary. Let being guided feel ordinary. Let being free feel ordinary. Do not search for excitement. Rest in naturalness. What is natural to you must express itself through you and I sleep as the one who has received. Feel that now. I sleep as the one who has received, not as the one waiting, not as the one begging, not as the one asking whether it will happen. I sleep as the one who has received. My final feeling is fulfillment. My final identity is possession. My final state is peace. I wake as the one who is fulfilled. Tomorrow may show old echoes for a moment, but I will not crown them. I will remember. The fact before me is not the limit within me. What is seen is temporary. What is assumed is creative. I wake as the one who is fulfilled. I walk as the one who has received. I feel from the end. Now let the words become slower inside you. It is done. All is well. I am safe. I am held. I am guided. I am free. The impossible is dissolving. The old state is gone. The new state is natural. Let them be a descent into the fulfilled state. Let them be the soft stairway down into sleep. With each phrase, the outer world loses more of its command. With each phrase, the inner world grows more real. With each phrase, the subconscious receives a new instruction. There is nothing more to force tonight. There is nothing more to solve tonight. There is nothing more to check tonight. Checking belongs to doubt. Forcing belongs to fear. Tonight, you enter the Sabbath. Tonight, you cease from mental labor because the end has been assumed. The seed has been planted. The scene has been felt. The feeling has been chosen. The law has been trusted. Sleep now, not as escape, but as creation. Sleep knowing that the law works in silence. Sleep knowing that what has been planted will bear fruit. Sleep knowing that the subconscious receives feeling as fact. Sleep knowing that the impossible has already begun to move. And if the mind whispers one last question, if it asks, but how? Answer softly, the law knows how. If it asks, but when? Answer softly, in its appointed way. If it asks, but is it done? Answer not with argument, but with feeling. Feel the finality. Feel the peace, feel the relief. And let the answer be simple. It is done. And you may rest.